Chapter 2764. However, it wasn't easy to run out of the Snow Valley. Lin Yi ran in from the entrance of the Snow Valley. Now, he could only continue running forward and couldn't turn back. If he turned around, he would run into the black-clothed man, so Lin Yi could only circle around the Snow Valley and then run out. Therefore, Lin Yi tried his best to run towards the edge of the Snow Valley, preparing to circle around and run out from the entrance of the Snow Valley. However, Lin Yi's sudden change in route made the Grand Elder's heart jump, and he almost exploded from fright. The direction Lin Yi was running towards was where Tang Yun was cultivating. If Lin Yi kept running, he might be able to lure Tang Yun out. At that time, it was a small matter for Lin Yi to see Tang Yun, because Lin Yi didn't know Tang Yun, but if Tang Yun stood up for Lin Yi, how could she, an early-stage Heaven Stage expert, be a match for the black-clothed man in the late stage of Heaven Stage? If anything happened to Tang Yun, then it would be too late for the Grand Elder to regret it. Thinking of this, the Grand Elder didn't dare to watch the show anymore. He directly flew down from the highest peak of the Snow Valley and floated towards the black-clothed man. Without saying a word, before the black-clothed man could react, a snow-white jade rui arrived in front of the black-clothed man. The jade rui instantly enlarged and transformed into a huge misty white, enveloping the black-clothed man. In the next moment, the jade rui returned to the Grand Elder's hands, and the black-clothed man turned into a snow sculpture. His entire body was filled with misty crystals, and with a loud bang, he fell to the ground, lifeless. This jade rui was naturally the Grand Elder's Heaven Stage weapon. It was also a water-type Heaven Stage weapon. Although it could be used with her misty mental cultivation method, it was still inferior to the misty Heaven Stage weapon that Lin Yi brought. However, the Grand Elder's strength was there for all to see. With a wave of his hand, he could kill without leaving a trace. The black-robed man chased after Lin Yi with the mentality of a cat chasing a mouse. In his view, Lin Yi would eventually be exhausted and captured by him. Moreover, when he ran into the Snow Valley, the disciples of the Snow Valley initially tried to stop him. Later on, no one meddled in his business. This made the black-robed man think that the Snow Valley was giving face to the blood-robed Yellow Spring sect, allowing him to chase people here without being stopped. The black-robed man was proud of himself, but he did not expect that a jade rui would cover him and he would die. However, his death could be considered a quick one. He was frozen to death in an instant without much pain. The Grand Elder's sudden appearance and sudden attack caused Lin Yi to be stunned. Looking at the black-robed man who was already dead on the ground, Lin Yi realized that he was wrong. This person was not from the Snow Valley. Otherwise, no matter how generous the Snow Valley was, they could not casually kill a heaven-rank late-stage expert. In fact, this black-robed man's death was really unjust. Logically speaking, he was already a heaven-rank late-stage expert. There was only a small level difference between him and the Grand Elder. If the two of them were to have a fair fight, even if the black-robed man could not win, he might not be killed instantly. At least he could still escape. But now, he thought that the Snow Valley had given him face. Lin Yi ran in front while he chased from behind. He did not take any precautions, and the Grand Elder directly used his divine weapon. The black-robed man did not even have the chance to take out his weapon before he died. It was really a death wish. But in fact, even if he took out his heaven-ranked divine weapon, it would be useless. Because his divine weapon could not be used to attack. Although his heaven-rank late-stage strength was very high, he was not as strong as an ordinary heaven-rank late-stage expert. He relied on another ability. Otherwise, with his heaven-rank late-stage strength, he would not be able to team up with two masters who were so much weaker than him to kill Lin Yi. Since the Grand Elder had made a move, the other Snow Valley disciples naturally could not sit back and do nothing. They all rushed over. What's that sound? Why is it so noisy? Mrs. Tang was a little angry. She had finally been able to whisper to her daughter, but there was always a mess of noises coming from outside the room. This made Mrs. Tang very angry. The Snow Valley was originally quite quiet. What was going on today? Mom, maybe something happened. Don't worry about it. Tang Yun did not care. No, I have to go out and take a look. Mrs. Tang stood up and frowned as she walked out of Tang Yun's yard. She wanted to see who was making noise and then she would extort some benefits for Lin Yi. These disciples surrounded him. Lin Yi woke up as if he had just woken up from a dream. He looked at the Grand Elder in disbelief. He was very puzzled and confused about what had just happened. Why did the Grand Elder suddenly make a move without a sound? Why didn't he make a move before? Lin Yi was puzzled. Thank you for saving me, Grand Elder. But no matter what, the Grand Elder had saved Lin Yi's life. So Lin Yi thanked her gratefully. The Grand Elder snorted. She did not want to save Lin Yi at all. She only made a move because she had no other choice. She said perfunctorily, "It's nothing. He is already dead. You can leave in peace." Thank you so much. Lin Yi said, however, can Grand Elder tell me what kind of sect this blood-clothed underworld sect is? Why are they chasing after me? What? Why are they chasing after you? If you ask me, who should I ask? The Grand Elder was stunned and looked at Lin Yi strangely. This blood-clothed underworld sect is an assassin organization. Of course, they are different from the assassin organizations in the secular world. They are also an organization that takes money to eliminate disasters. However, they only accept missions to assassinate cultivators. If the target is not a cultivator or an ordinary person, they will not kill them. This is the rule set by the Ancient Summit. Assassin organization. Lin Yi was stunned. So, someone hired assassins to kill me. Maybe. Or maybe you killed their people by mistake, and they came to you for revenge. The Grand Elder explained. Killed their people by mistake. Lin Yi, on the other hand, couldn't remember who he'd accidentally killed to offend a mysterious organization like this. He was familiar with the common world's assassin organizations, but this was on the practitioner level. From what the Grand Elder said, the assassin organizations on both levels weren't related at all. Lin Yi didn't have anything to do with this organization, so why would he offend them? Alright, you should go back quickly. Since you have provoked them, you have to be careful. They failed to kill you this time, and they lost a heaven stage expert. They may give up, but they may also take revenge on you. You should go back and prepare. The Grand Elder said faintly. Chapter 2765. How many heaven stage experts could an ancient sect have? Now 3 heaven stage experts were dead. How many heaven stage experts could there be in an ancient sect? Most of them could be counted with a few fingers, but the number did not exceed 2 digits. The blood-clothed Yellow Spring sect had lost 3 of their disciples at once. How could they tolerate this, unless they had no successors? If they still had experts, how could they not take revenge on him? Yes, but they might be afraid of you now that their people are dead. They can start from other aspects, such as taking revenge on your family. The Great Elder said, I can do it once, but I can't do it a second time. Although it usually takes a long time for them to take revenge, usually half a year to a year, and the place they take action is often in the wilderness, far away from human habitation. But accidents can happen when they are angry, so you'd better go back and prepare quickly. Lin Yi didn't expect to provoke such a scourge sect. He couldn't help but smile bitterly. Don't they only kill cultivators? My family is not a cultivator. Why would they do it? They only take orders to assassinate cultivators, but it doesn't mean they don't kill ordinary people. Taking revenge on others and taking orders are two different things. The Great Elder said lightly, "Our ancient summit agreement only forbids them from taking orders to assassinate non-cultivators, but it doesn't restrict other things, so you'd better go back." The Great Elder urged Lin Yi with every sentence. Seeing that Lin Yi didn't want to leave, she couldn't force him to leave. She could only scare him. Otherwise, if Lin Yi became suspicious, it would be troublesome. They really have no professional ethics. Lin Yi was a little helpless. But the other party was an assassin, and their purpose was to kill. There was no way to talk about rules with them, so Lin Yi was also very helpless. He could only hope that the Bloodcloth Underworld sect would be afraid and give up. The Great Elder turned around and saw that more and more disciples were surrounding them, so she ordered a few of them, "You guys take this corpse away first, but take off his shoes, don't break them." "Yes." Several Snow Valley disciples quickly responded. Although they didn't know why the Great Elder wanted to take off the corpse's shoes, they still did as she said, "These shoes." Lin Yi looked at the feet of the black-clothed man strangely before looking at the Grand Elder doubtfully. When the Grand Elder heard Lin Yi's question, she did not want to explain. She only wanted to send Lin Yi out of the Snow Valley as soon as possible. Immediately. Because this place was too close to Tang Yun's training area, she was really afraid that after Tang Yun came out, something unexpected would happen. However, if she wanted to send Lin Yi away directly, she had to fulfill her wish. Looking at Lin Yi's curious look, she was afraid that Lin Yi would continue to ask questions. Hence, she could only be patient and quickly explained, "This pair of shoes is actually his heaven-level magic weapon." "Ah! This pair of shoes is his heaven-level magic weapon?" Lin Yi was stunned and looked at the shoes that the disciple had taken off. "That's right. This pair of shoes is called the Gale-Chasing Lightning Boots, and the martial technique that this person cultivates is called the Gale-Chasing Lightning Formula. It's a profound lightness skill that complements each other. After cultivating it, one can move as if they're flying. Although it doesn't have any offensive capabilities, it's a great weapon for tracking and escaping." The Great Elder explained. She told the truth because she didn't think that Lin Yi could take the shoes for himself. After all, she had killed the black-clothed man, and he had died in the Snow Valley. She had helped Lin Yi kill his enemy, so it was impossible for Lin Yi to ask for the Gale Lightning Boots. "Oh, I see." Lin Yi looked enviously at the Gale Lightning Boots in the disciple's hands, but he had no intention of taking it for himself. He only said, "If that's the case, then I won't disturb the Great Elder any further. Thank you for today's matter." The Great Elder was overjoyed. She sang in her heart, "Go, go, our reunion is like a gust of wind." However, just as Lin Yi was about to leave, a loud voice called out, "Wait." Then, the disciples that had surrounded Lin Yi and the Great Elder all made way. Lin Yi turned his head and was a little stunned. Who else could it be if it wasn't the Snow Valley inspector from before? "You little brat, what are you holding in your hands? Why don't you show it to me before leaving?" Mrs. Tang pointed at the disciple holding the Gale Lightning Boots and said angrily, "Didn't I say? You have to tell me immediately when something good is being delivered to the Snow Valley. I don't think you took my words seriously, did you?" This. Aunt Wang. The disciple holding the Gale Lightning Boots was originally a very glorious thing. To be able to do something for the Great Elder, the other disciples were very envious. But in the blink of an eye, they were no longer envious. Fortunately, their hands were slow, or else they would have been the ones being scolded by Mrs. Tang. Ahem. This Gale Lightning Boots belongs to the man in black, not from the Snow Valley. The Great Elder cursed in her heart. What was to come had come, but luckily it wasn't Tang Yun. She just wanted to send Mrs. Tang back and get Lin Yi out of the way, so she explained on behalf of the man in black. "Oh, no need to say anything, I heard it all." Mrs. Tang waved her hand. She had heard the Great Elder's words from afar, so she waved her hand and said, "This Gale Lightning Boots is a good item. Since it doesn't belong to the Snow Valley, I'll give it to you." With that, Mrs. Tang snatched the boots from the disciple's hands and handed it to Lin Yi. The disciple didn't dare say anything, only looking at the Great Elder with fear. The Great Elder was so angry that he almost flew into the sky, his face was dark. This can't be, this person was killed by the Great Elder, and I'm already very grateful that the Great Elder helped out. How can I take this boots? Lin Yi waved his hand and said, "Senior, thank you for your kindness. Why don't you take this thing, Senior? In case of danger, you can still escape and save your life." Lin Yi saw that Mrs. Tang was a good and kind person, always thinking of him, but her strength was a bit weak, so he wanted her to keep the boots for herself. "Oh, I'm here, no one would dare to kill me. You should take it. Didn't you offend the blood-clothed underworld sect? When they come looking for you, you'll be able to escape." Mrs. Tang said nonchalantly. "That's right, this was taken from the blood-clothed underworld sect. If the blood-clothed underworld sect saw it, it would cause unnecessary trouble, so it's safer to leave it in the Snow Valley." The Great Elder quickly followed up on Lin Yi's words. Chapter 2766. The Grand Elder almost fainted from anger. "So, you can keep your life if you take it." Mrs. Tang said, "Moreover, if our Snow Valley stays, it will only attract unnecessary trouble. When the time comes, everyone will know that it was the Grand Elder who killed them, right, Grand Elder?" "Yes. That's right." The Grand Elder took a deep breath, telling Lin Yi not to get angry. "Not bad, take it. We're actually planning to hide it or destroy it, we don't dare use it either." The Grand Elder's heart was bleeding when she said this. She wanted Lin Yi to take the item and leave as soon as possible. She was afraid that Mrs. Tang would waste more time and had no choice but to agree. In fact, the gale-chasing lightning boots was an ancient treasure. Many ancient sects were envious of it and wanted to get their hands on it. However, the blood-cloth Yellow Spring sect wasn't weak either. Only their disciples could use it when they were out on a mission. When they returned, it would be stored in the warehouse. Even if other ancient sects wanted to borrow it, they wouldn't have the chance. "Thank you very much." Lin Yi took the gale lightning boots and thanked the Grand Elder. He also smiled at Mrs. Tang. "Thank you too, Senior." "All right, Mr. Lin, you should leave. This started because of you. We don't want to get involved." The Grand Elder said faintly. Her tone indicated that she wanted to send him off. "I'll be on my way then." Lin Yi nodded and turned to leave. Tang Yun was a sky-class master. She didn't pay attention to the noise outside, but now that her mother was out, she could hear the conversation not far away. When she heard Lin Yi's voice, her heart skipped a beat. Lin Yi was back. Lin Yi was back again. She stood at the door of the courtyard and wanted to rush out, but her rationality stopped her from doing so. Lin Yi had already grown suspicious of her when he saw her at the top of the mountain. If she appeared again now, it would definitely arouse Lin Yi's suspicions. At that time, wouldn't all his efforts be in vain? Therefore, she stood at the entrance of the courtyard and resisted the urge to go out. But when she heard that Lin Yi was caught by the blood-clothed underworld sect, her heart tightened. Did he provoke another powerful enemy? However, he could only blame himself for being too weak and unable to help him. Tang Yin was overjoyed when her mother decided to give the boots to Lin Yi. Her mother was amazing, giving Lin Yi such a useful life-saving item. Lin Yi returned to the place where he parked his car. The two bodies were still there. Lin Yi found a place to bury the bodies and drove away. Nothing was missing from the car. Lin Yi didn't expect that his trip back to Snow Valley would be a blessing in disguise. He got a pair of boots. This was a benefit that Lin Yi didn't expect before. That night, the black-clothed man who was supposed to report the progress of the assassination to the blood-clothed underworld sect didn't send back the news on time. This made Ancestor Yellow Spring frown. Did you manage to contact them? Ancestor Yellow Spring looked at his subordinate and asked. Reporting to Ancestor, none of them can be contacted. The subordinate said carefully. What? None of them can be contacted. How is that possible? Ancestor Yellow Spring couldn't believe it. The three people on this mission were all Sky-class masters. Even if the mission failed, it was impossible for none of them to come back. But they still couldn't contact them. Could it be? A bad feeling welled up in Ancestor Yellow Spring's mind, making him a little worried. I've already sent someone to contact them. Although this subordinate was an expert at the peak of the late phase of Sky class, he was still trembling in front of Ancestor Yellow Spring. He didn't dare to be disrespectful because Ancestor Yellow Spring was an expert at the peak of the late phase of Sky class. He was the most powerful existence in the world. An expert at the peak of the late phase of Sky class was rare in the ancient times. Alright, you can leave first. Come and tell me if there's any news. Ancestor Yellow Spring waved his hand, a little dispirited. A bad premonition had already risen in his heart. He could roughly guess the fate of his three subordinates, but he didn't dare to believe it. However, the next result made him very angry. The subordinate from before came again. This subordinate was also a first-class expert in the blood-clothed underworld sect. He was called Gloomy Forest Ancestor, but he didn't dare to be arrogant in front of Ancestor Yellow Spring. The blood-clothed underworld sect was a strict assassin organization. Except for Ancestor Yellow Spring's senior brother, Bloodcloak Ancestor, who was currently in seclusion, there was no one in the blood-clothed underworld sect who could be on equal footing with Ancestor Yellow Spring. Gloomy Forest Ancestor was just a steward. Ancestor Yellow Spring, the bodies of Golden Medal number 5 and Golden Medal number 6 have been found. Gloomy Forest Ancestor's voice was a little hoarse, but there was also disbelief and shock in it. They're really dead. Ancestor Yellow Spring's voice was extremely bitter. Golden Medal assassins, those were Golden Medal assassins. There weren't many people in the blood-clothed underworld sect. 2 of them died at once, and the other's fate was unknown. What about Golden Medal number 3? I'm not sure yet, but it seems that he's in trouble. There are traces of a chase at the scene, but because it's too messy, I can't tell where they ran to in the end. But one thing is, Lin Yi is fine now. Gloomy Forest Ancestor said with a bitter smile. Our people saw Lin Yi's car near the highway, and it's on its way back. Ancestor Yellow Spring slammed the table, and the exquisite mahogany table in front of him suddenly broke into pieces and turned into a pile of sawdust. Although Ancestor Yellow Spring was prepared, he still couldn't take the blow at this time. Don't tell me that these 3 people were killed by Lin Yi. Isn't he just an Earth rank expert? How could he kill 3 Heaven rank experts? How is this possible? According to the investigation of the intelligence team, Lin Yi has the strength to kill Heaven rank experts in seconds. Gloomy Forest Ancestor said weakly. Killing Heaven rank experts in seconds? What kind of ancient joke is this? Have you ever seen an Earth rank expert killing a Heaven rank expert in seconds, and 3 of them at once? Ancestor Yellow Spring glared and said angrily. Ancestor Yellow Spring, this matter. I'm afraid it's true. Gloomy Forest Ancestor said with a bitter smile. After careful investigation by the intelligence team, Lin Yi did kill a heaven rank expert from the Red Conch, and it was an instant kill. Chapter 2767. Xinyan came out of the washroom and raised her head to see Lin Yi looking at her. She lowered her head shyly. She was a shy girl, and even though she lived with Lin Yi, she couldn't let go of herself. "How do you feel?" Lin Yi asked. I feel a lot better." Xinyan felt hungry all of a sudden. In the past, she wouldn't eat if she wasn't so hungry that she chose to sleep instead. "I want to eat," Lin Yi said. All right, I'll go prepare something. We'll have a feast tonight to celebrate. Yao Yao, Shu, and Jing Jing will be back soon," Lin Yi said. "Aw. So you're saying that I'm fine now?" Xinyan was very happy after hearing Lin Yi's words. The problem that had been bothering her for so long was finally solved. "Then, can you continue training tonight?" Lin Yi looked at Xinyan, very touched. She didn't blame him for what happened to her, and the first thing she did after recovering was to let him train again. But Lin Yi could only shake his head with a bitter smile. "Not yet, you've only recovered temporarily. If you want me to continue training, I'll have to deal with the jade first. Otherwise, it'll be the same as before." "Oh." Xinyan was a little disappointed. She was fine now, but she still couldn't help Lin Yi much. Lin Yi went to cook, and Meng Yao got a call from Lingshan at school. She felt a headache coming on. Tang Yuqi had been treating Lingshan to dinner almost every night to understand the situation. At first, Lingshan was very polite, but later on, she started to panic. She couldn't just let this go on like this, could she? Plus, Lingshan's sharp senses told her that Tang Yuqi was starting to suspect something. Although the topics they talked about during dinner had nothing to do with House Tang, the subtle probing always made her wary. Fortunately, she was a police, her anti-detection abilities were very strong. Tang Yuqi might be a detective, but he didn't get much of an advantage. This kind of battle of wits and courage in a banquet like this was really tiring for her. She just wanted to get this over with as soon as possible. Meng Yao was panicking as well, but there was nothing she could do without Mrs. Tang's reply. Other than that, however, she received a piece of good news: Lin Yi had returned safely. Lin Yi had sent a text, telling them to come back after school for a feast. Yushu was overjoyed. "Is there shark meat? What do you want to eat?" Meng Yao couldn't help but give Yushu a kick. "Who's going to catch sharks for you in the cold? Aren't you afraid that Lin Yi will catch a cold? If you want to eat it, go catch it yourself." "Fine, don't the supermarkets sell frozen ones?" Yushu said, feeling wronged. "Didn't you say that frozen food doesn't taste good?" Meng Yao glared at her. "Eat whatever you have, don't be a busybody." "Oh, okay." Yao Yao is becoming more and more considerate towards Shield Bro. Yushu mumbled. "What did you say?" "Say it again." Meng Yao turned around and glared at Yushu as if her tail had been stepped on. "I didn't say anything, I said I'm not eating anymore." Yushu blinked innocently. Lin Yi had already prepared a table full of dishes by the time they got back. Han Xiaoqiao still had a box of rice and some vegetables on it before going back to the villa to read and eat. It was rare for a bookworm to reach this level. There really is shark meat. Shield Bro is so considerate towards Shu. Yushu said happily as she looked at the shark meat on the table. Meng Yao was thinking about Lingshan's situation. Although Xinyan seemed to be fine now, she still wanted to discuss with Shu and Xinyan about a plan at night. "Shield Bro, can you tell us about the process of getting the medicine? Did that snowy valley give you any trouble?" Yushu asked, wanting to ask if Lin Yi had any contact with Tang Yun. Of course, she couldn't ask him directly, so she could only ask in a roundabout way. They didn't give me any trouble, but the Grand Elder is in charge of things in the Snowy Valley. That's different from the Ice Palace. The Grand Elder is cold, but she didn't shut me out. It was a lot smoother than last time. Lin Yi said. That's true. I heard that this Snowy Valley is a sect that specializes in trading. Meng Yao nodded. Yeah, but there's a Snowy Valley watcher there. She's quite kind-hearted, and with her help, the rewards were beyond my expectations. Lin Yi said as he told them about what happened in the valley. At first, Meng Yao and Yushu didn't know what was going on. Why didn't they know that there was such a person in the valley? However, when Lin Yi said that the inspector of the Snowy Valley had helped him, the two of them looked at each other and smiled. This person must be Mrs. Tang. Only Mrs. Tang could do something like this. But when they heard that Lin Yi was being chased by the blood-clothed Yellow Spring sect after he left the valley, Meng Yao and Yushu's hearts tightened. Lin Yi didn't know why the blood-clothed Yellow Spring sect became enemies with him, but Meng Yao and Yushu knew that Lin Yi had forgotten about it, but they hadn't. They just didn't know how to tell Lin Yi. Those Gale Lightning boots are pretty good. Shield bro, can Shu wear them and run a lap? Yushu was quite curious about the godly item Lin Yi got later. Of course. Lin Yi said. Why are you running? Lin Yi, don't spoil her. What if she breaks it? Meng Yao didn't want Yushu to mess around. She glared at Yushu. Plus, are you a practitioner? Do you know martial arts? This is a weapon for Sky-class practitioners. How are you going to use it? At first, Lin Yi didn't think too much about it. But after Meng Yao's reminder, he suddenly realized that this was a weapon for Sky-class practitioners. How was he going to use it? His level wasn't high enough to activate it. Plus, he didn't have the incantation for a martial arts technique. He had the Gale Lightning boots, but he couldn't use it. With that thought, Lin Yi couldn't help but feel a little helpless. He forgot to ask the Grand Elder if there was a matching chant for it. Chapter 2768. This. Elder Chen Sen is a little helpless. Elder, our intel team did a thorough investigation on Lin Yi last time, but Lin Yi was only a mystic class at that time. Besides, this information has only been collected for about half a year. Compared to our other assassination targets who started collecting information a year ago, this is already very recent information. Who knew that this kid could level up so quickly and kill Sky-class masters in a second? Then they've been monitoring Lin Yi for so long and they haven't heard anything about him. The Yellow Spring Elder also knew that what the Yongsan Elder said was the truth. Among their previous assassination targets, there had never been a freak like Lin Yi. I heard a little, but it was Lin Yi's follower, Fatty Lai, who spread the news. The intel team thought that he was just spouting nonsense to boost Lin Yi's reputation. The Yinsen Elder sighed and spread his hands. Even you, the Yellow Spring Elder, didn't believe it when you first heard that Lin Yi could kill Sky-class masters in a second? That's true. The Yellow Spring Elder nodded and said in disbelief. It seems that this Lin Yi is very strong. He can even kill Sky-class masters in a second, and 3 Sky-class masters at once. He's quite capable, isn't he? Indeed, if our people didn't die, it would be really unbelievable. The Yinsen Elder said. It seems that when Lin Yi was at Mystic class, he killed 3 of our bronze-plate elite assassins who were at the peak of Mystic class in a second. So, if we want to find Lin Yi for revenge, I have to do it myself. The Yellow Spring Elder pondered and said. Yellow Spring Elder, the Sky class meeting is getting closer and closer. Our Bloodcloak Underworld sect has been rejected by those ancient sects and they don't want us to participate in that plan. If you personally kill people now, it'll give those ancient sects an excuse. It's not worth it. The ancient elder quickly dissuaded. Don't be impulsive. I'm just saying. Old ancestor Yellow Spring nodded and said, hatred is nothing compared to that. How about this, you investigate Lin Yi's relatives and lovers, and we will attack Lin Yi's family. Since he can instantly kill a heaven ranker, let's avoid him for the time being and attack his family. You're wise, Patriarch Yellow Spring. Patriarch Chen Sen hastily ordered his subordinates to investigate. After Lin Yi left the Snow Valley, the highest elder fell ill. For a cultivator like her, it was rare for her to fall ill. But this time, she fell ill because of anger. She had been the highest elder of the Snow Valley for so many years, but this was the first time she felt so aggrieved. It was incomparably aggrieved. But she didn't have any blade skills, and Mrs. Tang couldn't kill or scold her. Putting aside her relationship with Tang Yun, she couldn't afford to offend her other daughter, Bing Tang. Bing Tang was in existence on the same level as her, and she couldn't have any other thoughts. And so, she fell ill, but the highest elder didn't dare tell others that she was sick. People would laugh at her, and she could only tell the people of the Snow Valley that she was going into isolation. Lin Yi's return this time was smooth. No one stopped him again, and he returned to the Donghai villa. He parked the car in front of the villa. Meng Yao, Yushu, and Han Jingjing weren't back yet. Lin Yi thought that Wang Xinyan had gone to school, but when he opened the door to his room, he saw that Xinyan was sleeping on his bed. Xinyan had been getting more and more sleepy these days, and she didn't have much energy during the day and night. She rarely got jealous, so Meng Yao didn't let her go to school. She just slept at home and waited for Lin Yi to come back. Boss Bai also knew about Xinyan's situation, and there was no problem for her to apply for leave. As for Xinyan sleeping in Lin Yi's room, it was because she slept too much every day. Meng Yao and Yushu didn't have the same time difference as her, and they didn't want to disturb her rest, so they let her sleep alone in Lin Yi's room. Xinyan, I'm back. Lin Yi felt sorry for Xinyan, who was getting more and more haggard by the day. If it wasn't for him, Xinyan wouldn't be like this. Ugh. Xinyan heard Lin Yi's voice, and woke up in a daze. She had been sleeping for the past few days, and she wasn't as sleepy as before. She was still sleepy, but she would wake up when someone came back. She was surprised to see Lin Yi. Xinyan, I've got the herbs. I asked for 4 of them, I'll give one to you now. Lin Yi said as he went to his bag for the jade jasper grass. According to old Lin, the jade jasper grass had to be consumed directly, so Lin Yi gave it to Xinyan after washing it clean. Just eat it like this. Xinyan looked at the oddly shaped herb in Lin Yi's hand, unsure of what to do. Yeah, just eat it like this. Close your eyes and eat it like a carrot. Lin Yi said with a smile. Alright, thanks. Xinyan said, amused by Lin Yi's thought this was a treasure, not a carrot. Wouldn't she be eating it for nothing? What are you thanking me for? It's my fault that I'm sucking you like this. It's normal for me to get you some medicine. Lin Yi said. Oh. Xinyan blushed a little. What did he mean by sucking? Xinyan blushed a little at Lin Yi's choice of words, but she knew that she was overthinking things. She closed her eyes and started eating the carrot. Oh, no, the jade jasper grass. It had to be said that the jade jasper grass was an ancient herb. No wonder the Snowy Valley treated it like a treasure. The Grand Elder had treasured it a lot back in the trade. Xinyan felt much better after the herb was ingested, and she didn't yawn like she used to. She got off the bed on her own. You feeling better? Lin Yi was surprised and happy to see Xinyan up. I need to go to the bathroom. Xinyan said, blushing. She was supposed to go to the washroom when she woke up, but she forgot in the excitement of seeing Lin Yi come back. Now that she'd finished the elixir, she couldn't take it anymore and went to the washroom. Ugh. I thought you'd feel better already. Lin Yi sweated. I do feel a little better, Xinyan said as she rushed to the washroom. The bathroom was in Lin Yi's room, and the sound of running water made Lin Yi's imagination run wild. But Lin Yi had promised Xiao Long that nothing would happen between him and Xinyan. He wouldn't make things difficult for her. Chapter 2769. Is that so? Yushu wasn't interested in the boots at all. After dinner, Han Jingjing went back to her house, while Meng Yao, Yushu, and Xinyan went upstairs to sleep. Lin Yi didn't ask Xinyan to stay, afraid that he wouldn't be able to stop himself from practicing in the middle of the night. Xinyan, on the other hand, was too embarrassed to stay. She used to help Lin Yi with his practicing, so what excuse could she use now? Lin Yi went back to his room and gave Boss Bai a call, telling him that he was safe. Master Bai, how's the inheritance in my body? Any news? I'm looking into it for you, but there's no news yet. Man, it'd be great if I was still in 5 Elements sect, but I can't ask them now. Boss Bai said helplessly. It's okay, there's no rush. Lin Yi said, but he was actually quite worried. How about this, I'll call my second disciple and ask him. Boss Bai, naturally, understood what Lin Yi was thinking. He hesitated for a bit before making his decision. His relationship with Xian Chen wasn't good, but his relationship with Xian Zhen was very good. Boss Bai's alchemist had passed away a long time ago, and he barely taught him anything. Xian Zhen's alchemy skills were taught by Boss Bai himself, so they'd always been close. They hadn't been in contact for years, and he didn't know if Xian Zhen was still the Xian Zhen from before, or if he'd switched to Xian Chen's side. There won't be any side effects, will there? Lin Yi asked worriedly. I'll try. If it works, then it works. If it doesn't, then it doesn't matter. Boss Bai said with a laugh. At most, I'll lose face. What's the big deal? Thank you, Master Bai. Lin Yi sighed. The former head of 5 Elements sect was asking his former disciple, and he might even lose face. It was all for him, so why wouldn't Lin Yi move? If you can grow up, it will be my greatest joy. I still hope that one day we can return to the 5 Elements sect together. Boss Bai said. Lin Yi didn't say anything more. Words of gratitude were superfluous. Everything depended on his future actions. Boss Bai hung up Lin Yi's call and hesitated for a long time before he finally called Xian Zhen. In the 5 Elements sect, Xian Chen and Xian Zhen's satellite phone numbers hadn't changed for many years. He always had them, but he never took the initiative to call them. He would rather forget about them. But today, for the sake of Lin Yi, for the sake of his disciple, he had to call Patriarch Xian Zhen. Ancestor Xian Zhen was currently studying the pill formula that Kong Mingming had brought back. It was a 4th-ranked pill formula. This time, the pill formula was flawless, but he was unable to concoct it. He couldn't help but sigh. If eldest brother Xian Zhen was here, he would definitely be able to concoct this pill, right? Eldest brother, how are you doing? Patriarch Xian Zhen only dared to reveal his true feelings when there was no one around. All these years, under the pressure of Patriarch Xian Chen, he could only swallow his anger. For the sake of the sect, he could only cooperate with Xian Chen. A phone rang. Patriarch Xian Zhen thought that it was Patriarch Xian Chen calling to ask him to return to the sect. After all, Patriarch Xian Zhen had been staying in the Heavenly Elixir sect all this time. However, when Patriarch Xianjun looked at the caller ID on the phone, he was slightly stunned. It was actually a strange phone number. Hello. How are you? Patriarch Xianjun picked up the phone. Because the satellite phone number was special, the possibility of calling the wrong number was relatively small. Therefore, although he didn't know who it was, Patriarch Xianjun still picked up the phone. Xianjun, is that you? Boss Bai heard Patriarch Xianjun's voice again and was filled with emotions. It was as if he had returned to the time when he was young, when he would concoct pills with him every day. That time was always so happy. You are eldest brother. Patriarch Xianjun's eyes widened. The moment he heard this voice, tears filled his eyes. He didn't expect that the person he was talking about just now would actually call him. Yes, it's me. Xianjun, are you alright? Boss Bai asked. Eldest brother, I'm sorry. Patriarch Xianjun had a lot of words to say, but in the end, they turned into apologies because he didn't know how to express his current complicated feelings. It's all in the past. I don't blame you. Boss Bai laughed. He had already thought through what happened back then. It shouldn't have anything to do with Xianjun. He was just used. The person who did this should be Xianqin. No, it's my fault. I'm too cowardly. After so many years, I didn't dare to find you and bring you back to the sect. Sob. Patriarch Xianjun cried out loud like a child. However, he didn't care. In the secret chamber of the Heavenly Elixir sect, no one would know. Boss Bai also understood at this moment that Xianjun didn't walk the same path as Xianqin. His personality was still as cowardly as before. Although he had become the patriarch of a sect, he was still a child in his heart. Xianjun, don't cry. I know what happened back then had nothing to do with you. Boss Bai comforted him. Yes. Hearing that Boss Bai said that to him, Xianjun relaxed a lot. I came to find you this time because I have something to ask of you. Boss Bai was a little relieved. It seemed that his second junior brother could be trusted. The inheritance of Lin Yi should be settled. Eldest senior brother, please don't say that. If there's anything you want me to do, just say it. What do you want me to do? Just say it. Patriarch Xianjun hurriedly said, but you also know that there are some things that I can't do with Xianqin around. Are you asking me not to target your disciple in the 5-element sect? That's not it. Boss Bai denied, I won't make it difficult for you. It's something else. That's good. Patriarch Xianjun let out a sigh of relief. He didn't dare to go against Patriarch Xianqin. That's good. Patriarch Xianjun let out a sigh of relief. He didn't dare to go against Patriarch Xianqin. It could be said that the 5-element sect was completely under Patriarch Xuanqin's control. He, the second patriarch, was actually just an empty shell. His force was only the Heavenly Elixir sect, but it was only a secret force. On the surface, the Heavenly Elixir sect was still under Patriarch Xuanqin's control. He couldn't do too much, or else Patriarch Xianqin would see his flaws. He would be fine, but his 2 disciples would definitely be out of luck. It's like this. How can an ethereal attribute accept the inheritance of source energy and turn it into a real attribute? Boss Bai asked. This is recorded in detail in the scripture pavilion of our 5-element sect. Chapter 2780, Inheritance Method. Eldest brother, you don't need to investigate this. I know. Although Patriarch Xianjun was curious why Boss Bai asked about this, he didn't ask. Instead, he agreed without hesitation, I'll tell you now. Oh. You remember now. That's great. I'll record it down. Boss Bai was a little excited. He didn't think that the thing he had been worrying about for so many days would come so easily. Patriarch Xianzhen was still as respectful as before and would do his best to fulfill his requests. This made Boss Bai very happy. However, if he wasn't forced to this point, Boss Bai wouldn't have called to ask for help. This was a blessing in disguise. Okay, eldest brother. What you're talking about is the inheritance of source energy that can turn an ethereal attribute into a real attribute, right? It's not the kind of inheritance that ordinary inheritors have. Patriarch Xianzhen asked. That's right. It's this kind of inheritance. Boss Bai nodded and said, the inheritors don't have to go through so much trouble to understand the inheritance. They just have to go to the place of origin to understand it. I don't have to go through so much trouble to call you. There are two ways to inherit source energy. One is the right way. It requires a series of complicated preparations. Then, after taking the bone and marrow washing pill, go to the place of inheritance to inherit source energy. This preparation is a very complicated process. If you want to know, I'll write it down as soon as possible and find a chance to mail it to you. Patriarch Xianzhen said. Okay. Be careful. Boss Bai said gratefully. It was very dangerous for Patriarch Xianzhen to do this. Although he could enter the scripture pavilion of the Five Elements sect at will and read the books inside, it would be very difficult for him to send a copy of the inheritance of source energy to Boss Bai without anyone knowing. From what Patriarch Xianzhen said, the situation in the Five Elements sect was basically under Patriarch Xianzhen's control. His eyes were everywhere. If Patriarch Xianzhen wanted to do this without anyone knowing, he would have to put in a lot of effort. For example, memorizing a paragraph every day and then copying it after going back. Otherwise, if he took the book away directly, Patriarch Xianzhen would definitely be suspicious. Patriarch Xianzhen was focused on alchemy. Why would he suddenly be interested in inheritance? There must be something wrong. Boss Bai was very clear about this. Don't worry. I'll be careful. Patriarch Xianzhen had been used to living under surveillance. If it wasn't for surveillance, he wouldn't have been able to cultivate his own force in the Heavenly Elixir sect. Right. What's the other way of inheritance? Boss Bai continued to ask. The other way of inheritance is evil. However, it's also a shortcut. Patriarch Xianzhen said, that is to let the ethereal attribute person and the inheritor of this type do dual cultivation. Through dual cultivation, they obtain the inheritance of source energy. The disadvantage of this method is that the inheritor must be a virgin. Otherwise, there will be no effect. Oh. You can use this method to carry out the inheritance of source energy. Boss Bai was a little surprised. Is this method accurate? It should be accurate. That's what was recorded in the ancient books of the sect. The reason why I remember it is because Xianzhen used to study things like this. Xianzhen is responsible for the inheritors. Patriarch Xianzhen said, however, although this method is simple, it's not very realistic. First of all, the known inheritors are currently prioritized for that plan. Therefore, it's very difficult for you to find other inheritors. Eldest senior brother, on your side, who are you asking about this for? Oh, it's a friend of mine. I'm just casually asking. It wasn't that Boss Bai didn't trust Patriarch Xianzhen. He just didn't want to expose too much about Lin Yi. It seems that only the first method is more realistic. That should be it. Patriarch Xianzhen nodded. Eldest senior brother, don't worry. Just wait patiently. Leave the rest to me. Alright, then we'll contact each other. Once you're done, just give me a call. Boss Bai said. After hanging up, Boss Bai called Lin Yi right away and told Lin Yi what Patriarch Xianzhen said. Lin Yi was a little taken aback after hearing this. Dual cultivation with an inheritor. What does he mean by dual cultivation? Lin Yi had to admit that his thoughts were a little evil. There were many types of dual training. Yang Gua and Xiaolongnu's was a dual training, but most of the dual trainings in novels referred to them doing it in bed. I didn't ask about that. Since the inheritor has to be a virgin, then dual cultivation should be. You know what I mean. Boss Bai said. Ugh. Okay. Lin Yi smiled bitterly. His concubine was probably the inheritor, and dual cultivating with Xiao Xiao would fill up one of his ethereal attributes, right? Make it a real attribute. But the Ice Palace's requirement for Xiao Xiao was to maintain her virginity, and that conflicted with dual cultivation. So, Lin Yi didn't know what to do. But dual cultivation with 7 inheritors. That's a little unrealistic, isn't it? It's unrealistic, so I'm leaning towards the first method. But I'll have to wait for my junior brother Xuanzhen to copy it back. Boss Bai said. He's under Xuanzhen's control right now, and he can't touch the core secrets of the 5-element sect. Xianchen is also doing inheritors, but Xuanzhen doesn't know much about these things, and I don't either. Then what should we do if we dual cultivate? Lin Yi asked. I didn't ask about that, but I'll go ask if you're interested. Boss Bai said. Alright, there's no harm in knowing more. Lin Yi nodded. After hanging up, Lin Yi smiled bitterly. Boss Bai's news was good, but there was nothing. Dual cultivation with an inheritor wasn't realistic for Lin Yi. Even if Xiao Xiao was an inheritor, how long would it take to gather the other 6 inheritors? Even if they did, would they dual cultivate with him? Xiao Xiao would be fine, but what about the others? Lin Yi didn't want to do anything that would force others to do. Plus, even if Lin Yi wanted to force them, would they be that easy to do so? The inheritors all had ancient powers behind them, and Lin Yi couldn't force them. Shaking his head, Lin Yi didn't think about that for now. He placed his hopes on the first inheritance method the Xuanzhen ancestor mentioned. Chapter 2770. Everyday and Everyday Sect. Pinliang was very depressed. It had been more than a month since he returned to the Everyday and Everyday Sect. Other than the first time when Pure Yang Sky Lord met him and arranged for him to stay at the back of the mountain, he had never seen him again. Every day, apart from seeing Gao Xiaofu, he couldn't even see a shadow of a ghost. At first, he thought that Heavenly Venerate Pure Yang had given him special treatment and arranged for him to live in a paradise. However, as time passed, he realized that this back mountain was simply the burial ground of the Everyday and Everyday Sect's patriarchs. It wasn't a place for cultivation at all. Only the most ordinary disciples would be allocated a house in the back mountain, and his house was the most remote. Not far from it was the cemetery. Fortunately, Naipeo didn't forget about his boss, Pinliang, and came to visit him often. This comforted Pinliang a little, but it didn't feel good to be ignored like this. Naipeo didn't say much, but Pinliang could tell that he'd been trying his best, but the master of Pure Yang didn't respond. And so, Pinliang couldn't leave, and there was no point in staying here. He couldn't practice Naipeo's practitioner's arts either, so all he could do was train with Xiaofu in the most basic of arts. Time passed by like a year. One evening, Pinliang was bored out of his mind. He said to Xiaofu, "Xiaofu, I heard that there's a graveyard over there. Why don't we go explore tonight?" Pinliang was a coward, but he liked the thrill of horror. He used to watch horror movies alone at home. It was a perverted mentality that made him want to welcome the horror. Explore. Xiaofu was bored out of his mind as well. Exploring a graveyard was a little scary, but the Everyday and Everyday Sect really didn't have any entertainment. They didn't even have a TV or a computer, and their phones didn't have any signal. They had to borrow a satellite phone to communicate with the outside world, and the sect didn't allow private phones. And so, Xiaofu was bored out of his mind. He thought about it and agreed, sure, let's go now. Let's go, your Liang bro is really bored to death. I need a good thrill today. Pin Liang cursed. There's no women here, so we can only play horror. As the two of them spoke, they took the flashlight and walked out of the courtyard, heading towards the direction of the cemetery. Although the graveyard here wasn't as scary as those unmarked tombs with bones everywhere, it was still very scary to see tombstones everywhere. Especially since it was relatively empty here. When the wind blew, it would make a woo-woo sound, just like a ghost's cry. Brother Liang, isn't this a little too remote? Nothing can happen to us, right? Gao Xiaofu was a little scared. The sound of the wind made him shiver uncontrollably. What could possibly happen? We've been living here every day and nothing has happened. Plus, this is the burial ground of the everyday sect's ancestors. They're our ancestors. Even if something happened, it'd be a good thing. Pin Liang said with a wave of his hand. Plus, how would it be exciting if it wasn't scary? Then why are we still exploring? That's true. Gao Xiaofu forced himself to nod, but he was still a little scared. Liang bro, why don't I walk in front? You're brave enough to stay behind. Gao Xiaofu kept feeling like there was someone behind him, but when he turned around, there was nothing. He was really afraid that a ghost with a pale face would suddenly appear and bite him. All right, coward. You walk in front, I'll watch for you. Pin Liang nodded and let Xiaofu walk in front. Pin Liang was scared, but this was the feeling he wanted. The more scared he was, the better it felt. There was an inexplicable sense of satisfaction in his heart. And so, the two of them walked towards the graveyard. Although the tombstones here were neat and orderly, the whole graveyard was built on the back of the mountain, and the mountain paths were of different depths. The two of them couldn't walk very fast. Liang bro, are you still there? Xiaofu's voice was shaky. He would ask every once in a while to see if Pin Liang was still behind him. I'm here. Pin Liang said. Ah, that's good. Gao Xiaofu let out a breath of relief. He wasn't that scared now that there was someone behind him. Look, Liang bro, this grave looks like it was built not long ago, and it's even bigger than the other tombstones. It looks like it's an ancestor-level figure. I wonder which ancestor has passed away in recent years. There was no sound from behind Gao Xiaofu. Liang bro. Gao Xiaofu paused. Pin Liang didn't answer for a long time, and he panicked. He called out again with a shaky voice. Liang bro, are you there? There was still no answer. Gao Xiaofu broke out in a cold sweat, and his clothes were all wet. He panted heavily, his entire body numb. He wanted to turn around, but he couldn't muster up the courage. Liang bro, I'm begging you, don't scare me, I'm scared. Gao Xiaofu almost cried. He thought that Pin Liang was just pretending to be quiet to scare him. Of course, that was the best plan he could think of. He knew that Pin Liang shouldn't be trying to scare him. However, Xiaofu only got silence in response. There was no movement behind him. Gao Xiaofu took a deep breath and turned around. He wanted to see what was going on, but the moment he turned around, Pin Liang was gone. The graveyard was huge, and the surroundings were blurry under the moonlight. But there was no one there. Pin Liang had disappeared into thin air. Fuck. Liang bro, where did you go? Gao Xiaofu fell to the ground in shock. Pin Liang felt like he'd stepped on soft ground, and his whole body felt like he'd sunk into quicksand. He fell down, landing heavily on the hard ground, and lost consciousness. However, Pinliang woke up again after a short period of unconsciousness. His mind was a mess, and he had the strange feeling that he had turned into another person, but he was still Pinliang. He opened his eyes in a daze, and was shocked to find himself standing in a hole, and in the hole was a pile of bones. But Pinliang didn't feel any fear in front of the bones. Instead, he felt a sense of familiarity, as if the bones were him. Chapter 2771. Rubbing his feet that hurt from the fall, he was about to stand up. Suddenly, he felt a pain in his head, as if his soul had been pulled out, causing him to roll on the ground in pain. Ah, 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 Pinliang let out a blood-curdling screech. He felt as if his soul had returned, but it wasn't the same as before. In an instant, memories that didn't belong to him surged into his brain, giving him a splitting headache. Xiaofu didn't know what to do when he heard Pinliang's heart-wrenching scream. Xiaofu was so scared that he peed his pants. "Liang bro, is that you? What happened to you? Were you taken away by the evil spirits?" Pinliang heard Xiaofu's scream, but he didn't have the time to respond. He rolled on the ground, struggling. Finally, the headache subsided, and the strange memories seemed to have fused with his brain. Pinliang sat up from the ground, his eyes filled with confusion and surprise. He suddenly let out a strange cry. "Ha ha ha, I, the mad dragon ancestor, am finally back. Wahahaha." But after laughing, he scratched his head. He realized that he was both the mad dragon ancestor and Pinliang. This was not a successful possession. The mad dragon ancestor was the most powerful ancestor of the everyday sect in recent years. When he was alive, he had the strength of a peak late-stage heaven class, only one step away from the heavenly Tao. But a dozen years ago, two ruthless people came to the everyday sect to wreak havoc, sending the mad dragon ancestor to heaven with one punch. Fortunately, the violent dragon ancestor had cultivated a secret technique. After his death, his primordial spirit was preserved in his tomb, waiting for the opportunity to take over his body. But all these years, no one had ever stepped into his tomb, so he had no chance to take over his body. After all, after the tomb was built, it would be sealed, and it would be very difficult to open it again. Back then, Mad Dragon Patriarch's body was personally escorted into the tomb by Mad Bull Patriarch, and it was impossible for Mad Dragon Patriarch to take over Mad Bull Patriarch's body. Not to mention the fact that Mad Bull Patriarch's strength was not easy to take over, just the friendship between him and his junior brother prevented him from doing such a thing. The everyday sect wasn't a righteous sect, but they were a very loyal sect. This could be seen from how Heibao Bro, the pure young Sky Lord's disciple, was able to get Naipeo to join the sect with just one recommendation letter, becoming the pure young Sky Lord's disciple. And these were much stronger than the Five Elements sect. However, even so, because of the appearance of the two ruthless people who caused a scene in the past, the everyday sect was unable to catch up to the Five Elements sect's strength. Otherwise, with Mad Dragon Patriarch and Mad Leopard Patriarch, two Sky-class late-phase peak perfection masters, why would the everyday sect have to submit to the Five Element sect? Pinliang had come here by pure coincidence. After all these years, the soil above the tomb had loosened a little, and Pinliang's foot landed on it, causing it to sink in, allowing the Mad Dragon Patriarch to take over his body. But, although the wild dragon ancestor was at the peak of the late stage of the heaven realm, his spirit was a lot weaker. Moreover, so much time had passed that the wild dragon ancestor's spirit was getting weaker and weaker. If he hadn't completed the possession, then it wouldn't be long before he dissipated. The side effect of this possession was that the Mad Dragon Patriarch couldn't completely replace Zhong Pingliang, and could only merge his soul and Zhong Pingliang's soul into one, becoming a new person. This person could be said to be both Zhongping and the Mad Dragon Patriarch. He had both their memories and personalities, but it was also an independent existence. The two merged into one, and although Zhongping felt like he had aged a lot, he was still very happy, especially since he still retained his memories and half of his personality, so he still had the temperament of a young man. Wasn't he too amazing? He suddenly became the everyday sect's patriarch. And the first patriarch at that. Waha, Zhongping have finally made a comeback. Whatever Lin Yi, that's all floating clouds. In a novel, Zhongping am the main character. A beautiful life is about to begin. Zhongping was very pleased with his future when he suddenly heard Gao Xiaofu's voice. Liang bro, where are you? Gao Xiaofu's voice sounded like he was about to cry. He wanted to run now, but he didn't dare to. This place was too scary. Only then did Zhongping remember that he was here to explore with Gao Xiaofu. And so, Zhongping quickly crawled out of the cave. Gao Xiaofu had just shouted when he saw a person pop out of the ground not far in front of him. He almost fainted from the shock. How could a person pop out of the ground? Was it a ghost? A ghost! Gao Xiaofu cried out. Xiaofu, don't panic, I'm your Liang bro. Zhongping waved his hand and said faintly. Ah. Liang bro. You're finally back. Gao Xiaofu heard Zhongping voice and took a closer look. It really was Liang bro. He quickly climbed up from the ground and ran towards Zhongping happily. I'm back. You're Liang bro's follower, how can you panic like this? It's so embarrassing. Zhongping looked at Gao Xiaofu and shook his head helplessly. Liang bro, what's wrong? Why do you sound so weird? Why do you sound so old? Gao Xiaofu asked curiously. Zhongping temperament seemed to have changed as well. Although Zhongping didn't say anything during the exploration, Gao Xiaofu could tell that he was nervous. But now, Zhongping was terrifyingly calm. It's nothing. Something happened, that's all. Go get Naipeo here, I'll call him if I need anything. Zhongping planned on planning his future, he'd just completed the possession, so he had to do some planning. Now. Gao Xiaofu paused. It's the middle of the night, can I go get Naipeo? What's wrong with that? Tell him it's me, Liang bro, and he has to come whether he wants to or not. Zhongping naturally had a domineering aura around him. He used to be Naipeo's boss, but Naipeo was a famous person in the everyday sect, the disciple of pure Yang Sky Sovereign. So, Zhongping didn't dare act like a boss, afraid that Naipeo would alienate him. Chapter 2772. And so, Pinliang regained his confidence as a boss. He couldn't help but feel emotional, wanting to sing out loud, I haven't been a boss for so many years, yes. Xiaofu nodded after seeing Pinliang's insistence. He wanted to leave this graveyard as soon as possible. Pinliang had disappeared and reappeared, but he didn't want to stay here any longer than necessary. The two quickly returned to their house, and Xiaofu went to call Naipeo. Pinliang, on the other hand, sat on his bed, quietly thinking about his life. He'd accepted the fact that he was half-possessed, and as far as he was concerned, it was a good thing. Not only was his consciousness still there, but he also had a strong soul memory in his body. He wasn't far from being strong. Thinking back to the shallow arts he'd practiced before, Pinliang was a little pissed off. Pure Yang Sky Master, that bastard. How dare he give him something like that? Luckily, he wasn't a golden class practitioner yet, or else it'd take a lot of effort for him to switch to something else. Man! Pinliang looked at his body with the eyes of the mad dragon ancestor, and couldn't help but shake his head. His body was just too weak as it could be. He was missing a kidney. However, the loss of a kidney didn't have much of an impact on the mantra that the mad dragon patriarch had cultivated in his lifetime. It was just that his body was a little too weak, and he had already missed the best time to cultivate. He could only rely on some heavenly treasures to change and strengthen his physique. Naipeo was loyal to Pinliang, and although it was the middle of the night, he rushed to Pinliang's house as soon as Xiaofu called him. "Liang bro, you're looking for me?" Naipeo asked. "Oh, Naipeo, you're here." Pinliang nodded, gratified. This follower of his was quite loyal. "Yeah, Liang bro, is there something urgent in the middle of the night?" Naipeo asked curiously. "Take me to that pure young bastard," Pinliang said as he stood up. "What?" Naipeo paused, his face paling as he quickly covered Pinliang's mouth, cold sweat dripping down his forehead. "Liang bro, what are you saying? You can't say something like that. How could you say Master's name like that? Then let me ask you, Pao. I had a conflict with your master. Are you on my side, or are you on your master's side?" Pinliang purposely put on a cold face as he asked with his hands behind his back. "Liang bro, my life is yours. Without you, I wouldn't be here today. Of course I'm on your side," Naipeo said quickly. "All right, if that's the case, then bring me to Chunyang," Pinliang said with a wave of his hand. All right. Naipeo had no choice but to nod, wondering what the hell was wrong with Liang bro, going to Shifu. Moreover, from his tone, he seemed to be very dissatisfied with his master. What would they do if they really had a conflict? Even if he made a move, he wouldn't be a match for master. Could it be that Liang bro was angry at his master for leaving him at the back mountain for so long? But Naipeo was helping him out. Liang bro was a patient man, after all. He could even put up with Lin Yi after all this time. Couldn't he put up with his master too? "Pao, don't worry, your Liang bro has his reasons," Pinliang said with a strong voice. "Yes," Naipeo said helplessly as he brought Pinliang to Pure Yang Sky Master's courtyard. Since Naipeo was Pure Yang Sky Master's prized disciple, the patrolling disciples didn't stop him. Pinliang and Xiaofu followed him here, and so naturally, no one stopped them. "All right, Pao, knock on the door," Pinliang said calmly as he glanced at the gate. Pinliang could find this place, but without Naipeo leading the way, he'd be stopped by the patrolling disciples of the everyday sect, and that'd be troublesome to explain. "Now, Liang bro, master is resting right now. Look, if you have any grievances, just tell me, I'll pass it on, okay?" Naipeo really didn't want Pinliang and Pure Yang to fight, because the two weren't on the same level at all. "Let's do it." Pinliang shook his head and insisted. Seeing how insistent Pinliang was, Naipeo had no other choice but to knock on the door. Pure Yang was just about to rest when he heard the knocking. He paused, a little impatient. "It's so late, who's knocking? What's wrong?" "Master, it's me," Naipeo said carefully. "Naipeo, what's the matter?" Pure Yang heard Naipeo's voice, not as angry as before. He asked faintly, "Why are you looking for me so late?" "Master, it's..." Naipeo was about to explain when Pinliang cut him off. "Chunyang, you traitorous little bastard. Come out and see me now," Zhong Pinliang roared. Naipeo almost fainted when he heard that, thinking that it was over. It was really over. He didn't know what was wrong with Liang bro today, daring to go against the Pure Yang master. Pure Yang suddenly heard Pinliang's voice and raged, jumping out of the yard. He wanted to kill Pinliang right away, but then he remembered that Pinliang was Naipeo's boss. If he killed Pinliang, Naipeo wouldn't feel good about it, so he could only hold back his anger. Pinliang, you've drunk too much, haven't you? How dare you act like this in front of me? Do you want to die? Naipeo, you brought him here in the middle of the night, just because you're drunk. Pure Yang couldn't be blamed for thinking like that. No matter how much of a bastard Pinliang was, he wouldn't come here to yell at him, wouldn't he? And so, Pure Yang thought that Pinliang had drunk too much. Pure Yang, you're the one who's drunk. Why aren't you greeting your master? Pinliang snorted coldly. You're the sect master now, aren't you? Are you looking down on me, your master? Master. Pure Yang Empyrean was stunned as he looked at Zhong Pingliang in shock. He was even more annoyed. He couldn't help but say, my master, Master Mad Dragon, died a long time ago. Is there something wrong with your head? Naipeo, what the hell is going on? If you don't give me a proper explanation, I don't care if Pinliang is your big bro or not, he'll pay. Liang bro. Naipeo didn't know what to do. Chapter 2773. Give you a reasonable explanation. Well, when you were about to be executed by the sect for stealing a heavenly treasure, did you forget who was the one who protected you, who took you in as a disciple and taught you the martial Tao? Master Chunyang's expression changed. Not many people in the sect knew about his past, and even if they knew, they wouldn't dare to speak about it. How did Zhong Pingliang know about it? He used to be an outer disciple of the everyday sect, and wasn't valued. In order to cultivate, he was in charge of transporting a treasure and secretly took one, and it was exposed. In fact, there was an extra treasure, and it was because of this that he dared to take it. However, the inner disciple in charge of the treasury also took one, and he was dragged into it. Because the inner disciple was the disciple of an elder of the everyday sect, he was protected, and the responsibility was pushed to him, and they were ready to execute him. In the end, at this critical moment, the Mad Dragon Patriarch realized that he had a good aptitude and took him in as a disciple, and he escaped. Of course, that inner disciple had been killed after he became the sect master, and those who knew about it back then wouldn't mention it again, so he found it strange when Zhong Pingliang said it. How do you know? Master Chunyang looked at Zhong Pingliang warily, and shouted. Humph, I still know a lot more, you little bastard. When you broke through from the golden class to the mystic class, who protected you personally? When you broke through to the earth class, who gave you the small chi gathering pill? When your old mother was sick, who gave you the pill to go back and visit her? Zhong Pingliang said angrily, you little bastard, don't you even recognize me? You are. Master Chunyang looked at Zhong Pingliang in front of him in disbelief. If the first two things were known by others, it would be understandable, but the latter thing about his mother's illness, only his master, the Mad Dragon Patriarch, knew about it, and the Mad Dragon Patriarch was already dead. You little bastard, didn't I tell you before that I've cultivated a secret technique to preserve my soul? Kwangyo doesn't know, and you can't remember. You actually built a sealed tomb for me, how do you expect me to be reborn? Zhong Pingliang said angrily, if it wasn't for me. Oh, the previous Zhong Pingliang passing by and accidentally collapsing the ground above the tomb, my soul would have dissipated. Ah! You are really my master. Heavenly Lord Pure Yang's eyes widened as he suddenly recalled that his master, Master Mad Dragon, had indeed said that he had cultivated a secret technique that could preserve one's essence spirit after death. However, he had been young and his cultivation was shallow back then, so he hadn't thought much of it and had forgotten about it. It was only when Zhong Pingliang mentioned it that he recalled it. However, this only served to further prove one thing: the Zhongpingliang in front of him wasn't Zhongpingliang anymore. The Zhongpingliang who had been possessed was his master, Mad Dragon Patriarch. Do you want me to tell you that the key to the treasure vault is in the mechanical box at the head of my bed? Pinliang snorted when he saw that Lin Yi didn't quite believe him, and spilled out a huge secret. Ah! Empyrean Pure Yang no longer had any doubts. This was because the location of the treasury key was a secret of the Everyday and Everyday sect. Only the sect master knew of it. Patriarch Wild Dragon was the former sect master, Patriarch Wild Bull was the temporary sect master, and Empyrean Pure Yang was the current sect master. Even the elders didn't know the location of the key, and now that Pinliang had said it, there was no doubt about his identity. Originally, after the death of the Wild Dragon ancestor, the Wild Bull ancestor, he should have moved into the Wild Dragon ancestor's residence because all the previous sect leaders lived there. But because the Wild Bull ancestor wanted to reach the peak of the late Heaven Realm, he temporarily became the sect leader and passed his position to the Wild Dragon ancestor's disciple, Pure Yang Empyrean. As for Empyrean Pure Yang, he respected his master in his heart, so he had never lived in his master's room. He still lived in his former courtyard. It was just that after he became the sect leader, he had rebuilt it and made it even more luxurious. With that thought, Empyrean Pure Yang knelt down in front of Pinliang. Master, you're finally back. Your unworthy disciple Pure Yang greets you, Master. Get up, you little brat. You're not to blame for not knowing. Pinliang raised his hand. Yes. Empyrean Pure Yang was overjoyed as well. He didn't think that his master would be able to reincarnate. This was great news. With this, the Everyday and Everyday sect strength would increase by leaps and bounds. However, he suddenly thought of Zhang Naipeo and Gao Xiaofu beside him. A look of pity flashed in his eyes as he turned to Pinliang. Master, the location of the treasury key is a secret of the sect. What do you think about these two? Empyrean Pure Yang didn't want to part with Naipeo, but he had to ask for Pinliang's opinion. According to him, he wanted to kill Gao Xiaofu and keep Naipeo. Liang Bro. Why you're not Liang Bro anymore? Gao Xiaofu was scared out of his wits. He understood what Empyrean Pure Yang was trying to get rid of him. How could he not be scared? Naipeo looked at Pinliang in shock as well, his eyes complicated. Liang Bro. You too, don't worry, I'm still your Liang Bro. We brothers still have to work hard to get revenge on that little bastard Lin Yi. Plus, you guys still have to help me get Meng Yao. Pinliang said with a wave of his hand. Aw. You're still Liang Bro. Naipeo and Xiaofu looked at each other, confused. Who was this person in front of them? Empyrean Pure Yang found it strange as well. Could it be that the soul possession had failed? Had this person become Zhong Pinliang again? However, at this moment, Zhong Pinliang said to Pure Yang Empyrean, although I am your master, my primordial spirit is not strong enough to complete the possession. I can only fuse with Zhong Pingliang's soul, so after the fusion, I will be Zhong Pingliang and the Mad Dragon Patriarch. I see, so you're still my master then. Empyrean Pure Yang breathed in relief, he was still his master after the fusion. Pao and Xiaofu are my trusted subordinates. Don't worry. They're both loyal to me. Pinliang said. Yes, master. Empyrean Pure Yang said quickly. Then isn't the seniority a bit messed up now? Me and Naipeo. Do we have to call him Master Uncle from now on? Chapter 2774. You're right. I was just too happy that I forgot myself. Only then did Patriarch Guangnyo recall how Patriarch Guangnyo had died. Even if the two of them were Heaven's Daos, Patriarch Kwangyo was still a heaven's Daos, and he might not be a match for him. Alright, we should go out too, everyone is waiting for us at the door. Zhong Pingliang said. Alright, big brother Kwanglong. Kwangyo master nodded, completely acknowledging Zhong Pingliang's identity. Call me Liang bro from now onwards, I'm more used to this name. Zhong Pingliang had more autonomy, after all, Kwanglong master's soul was too weak, and he was a latecomer, naturally not as strong as Zhong Pingliang's original soul. After the fusion, Zhong Pingliang's personality was the dominant one. Alright, then I'll call you Liang bro, Kwangyo master didn't mind, as long as his big brother was back, it didn't matter. In the next few days, Zhong Pingliang began to train again. His body was too weak, and other than the foundation building pill, the everyday sect contacted the Sky Elixir sect and ordered a bone cleansing pill. Zhong Pingliang also began to soak his body in the medicinal liquid every day, which meant that all of the everyday sect's resources were used on Zhong Pingliang. Although Kwanglong Master's body had changed, he was still Kwanglong Master, the boss of the everyday sect. Now, the two people with the most authority in the sect were his disciple, and the other was his junior. Naturally, no one would object to him taking all the resources for himself. Xiaofu, on the other hand, benefited quite a bit from following Pinliang. Pinliang's body had been soaked in the medicinal liquid, and although the effects weren't as strong as before, bathing Xiaofu in it still improved his body by leaps and bounds. He couldn't reach a very high level, but if he had treasures, it wouldn't be a problem for him to become a sky-class master. It was just that his fighting ability would be a little weaker, that's all. Mrs. Tang told Tang Yun and Tang Juqing about Tang Yuqi's situation. Tang Juqing didn't have any opinions, so they listened to Tang Yun. After all, they were in the Snow Valley, and Tang Yun was the one making the decisions. Tang Yun thought about it and made her decision. Tang Yuqi was her cousin, she had to meet him. But he could not let him come to the Snow Valley, and he could not tell him anything about the Snow Valley, so he could only find an excuse. Since his parents had nothing to do, he could ask them to go back to East Ocean City. If he met Tang Yuqi, there wouldn't be any problems. If Tang Yun didn't show up, he wouldn't have any interaction with Lin Yi. He could solve this problem as well. It was killing two birds with one stone. That night, Meng Yao finally received a call from Mrs. Tang. Meng Yao thanked her first for helping Lin Yi with his trip to Snowy Valley. If it weren't for Mrs. Tang, Lin Yi's trip to the Snowy Valley wouldn't have gone so smoothly, but he certainly wouldn't have reaped so many rewards. Auntie, about Tang Yuqi. Are there any results? Ling Shan was in a rush, and Meng Yao wanted a result as soon as possible. About Tang Yuqi. Yun Yun said that her dad and I will go back after a while to reunite with him, but Yun Yun won't be able to come back. Mrs. Tang said, tell Tang Yuqi that our family is working in another place, but it's a bit of a secret, so we can't reveal it. But we'll go back to see him in a few days. That's great. Meng Yao breathed out in relief. This was what she was worried about the most right now. Tang Yuqi went to Ling Shan every day to ask for the latest news, and Ling Shan couldn't handle it anymore. If she didn't get any news from Tang Yun, it would be troublesome for her. After all, Tang Yuqi always asked Ling Shan out for a meal, and even if Ling Shan rejected it, she couldn't reject it every day. Ling Shan was also waiting for this result. The two didn't talk too much. Although Tang Yun was a tyrant in Snowy Valley, she still had to go to a designated place to make calls. She didn't have a satellite phone, and there were other disciples nearby, so she couldn't say too much. The first thing Meng Yao did after hanging up was call Ling Shan, telling her the good news in detail. Ling Shan was very excited as well, and called Tang Yuqi that very night. Tang Yuqi was already resting in the hotel when he received Ling Shan's call. He was happy and excited. She's finally interested in me. Is she going to ask me out? Tang Yuqi mumbled to himself as he picked up the phone. His goal in coming to Donghai was to find Tang Juqing's family, but now that he met Ling Shan, he felt that this trip to Donghai wasn't a waste. He hadn't found his family yet, but he had found his future partner. During this period of time, Tang Yuqi's impression of Ling Shan was quite good. First of all, she was beautiful and had a good body. This was his first impression, and Ling Shan and he were in the same line of work. Both of them were investigating cases, so they had a lot in common. Of course, the most important thing was that Ling Shan was also a practitioner, and an Earth class at that. Her strength was similar to Tang Yuqi's, so Tang Yuqi liked her even more. However, Tang Yuqi wasn't in a rush to confess. Instead, he used the matter of finding his second uncle, Tang Juqing, to interact with Ling Shan often, asking her out for a meal to improve their relationship. In fact, if Ling Shan let go of her guard against Tang Yuqi, her impression of him was quite good. At least the two could become good friends. They were both in the same line of work, and they were both practitioners, so they had a lot to talk about. Ling Shan, on the other hand, would often intentionally bring the topic of the case to avoid the topic of Tang Juqing's family. Tang Yuqi was a detective, after all. Ling Shan was skillful in changing the topic, but she couldn't hide it from Tang Yuqi. Tang Yuqi knew, but he didn't point it out. He was happy to let Ling Shan's topic continue. Today was the first time Ling Shan took the initiative to call him this late, and it made Tang Yuqi very excited. He had asked her out for a meal before, but she had a meeting and rejected him. Tang Yuqi didn't think that Ling Shan would take the initiative to contact him after the meeting. Did this mean that the relationship between the two of them could be a step closer? Ling Shan, you finished your meeting? Tang Yuqi asked with a smile. Yeah, I just finished. I have something to talk to you about, Ling Shan said. Chapter 2775. We can talk on the phone too. Ling Shan wanted to make it short. Let's talk when we meet. Tang Yuqi hung up. Helpless, Ling Shan could only wait at the entrance of the police station. Captain Song, waiting for your boyfriend again. Ling Shan stood in front of the police station, and her colleagues couldn't help but ask jokingly. Tang Yuqi had been coming to see Ling Shan a lot lately, and everyone thought that he was Ling Shan's boyfriend or potential suitor. After all, Ling Shan wouldn't go out with Tang Yuqi so often if she didn't have something in mind. This wasn't Song's Han, and not many people knew about Lin Yi. Ling Shan couldn't explain why Tang Yuqi was here either. She could only smile bitterly. Tang Yuqi ran over. He was a practitioner, and his stamina was good. He said apologetically when he saw Ling Shan coming out, Ling Shan, you're out already. I'm sorry, there were a lot of people in the elevator. It's nothing, let's talk on the way. Ling Shan couldn't talk about Tang Juqing's family in front of the police station. Sure, let's go for a walk and get some supper. Tang Yuqi nodded. After walking for a while and making sure there was no one around, Ling Shan said, I've helped you find out about Tang Juqing's family. Ah. What? Tang Yuqi paused. He didn't have much hope at first, and the reason he asked Ling Shan out was purely to ask her out. As for Tang Juqing, from Ling Shan's attitude, he felt that there was more to it than met the eye. He didn't think that Ling Shan would give him an answer like this today. Their family is out of town, but due to some special circumstances, I'm not sure where they are exactly. I don't know where they are exactly, they keep it a secret, but I've contacted them through other people. Your second uncle and aunt might come back to Donghai soon, and I can arrange for you guys to meet then. Ling Shan said. Ah. Really? That's great, when will they come back? Tang Yuqi was very happy. Finding Tang Juqing's family was a pleasant surprise. That'll take a while, Ling Shan said. She wasn't sure either, since Mrs. Tang couldn't leave right away after returning from Snowy Valley. She still had some things to do, but she couldn't tell when exactly. But it'll definitely be soon. Is that so? Thank you very much. Tang Yuqi thought about it and said, I've been in East Ocean City for a long time, and I've been doing nothing. This isn't like me. Ling Shan, can you help me and let me work at the police station? Ugh. You're at the police station. Ling Shan paused. He didn't expect Tang Yuqi to suddenly make such a request. Yes, but don't worry, I won't ask for a sky-high price. I'll just be a temporary worker. You can pay me whatever you want to hire temporary workers. Tang Yuqi said. Ah. You're a famous detective, the price of a temp. Ling Shan was a little speechless, but this was something she could decide for herself. The assistant police and drivers in the criminal investigation unit were all recruited. It wouldn't be a problem if Tang Yuqi was just a temporary worker. I don't really need money. I earned quite a bit when I was overseas, and I'm just bored. I need something to do. Tang Yuqi said, don't you have a lot of cases on your side? I can help you solve them. I don't even have to pay you. All right then. If that's the case, you can come to work tomorrow. Ling Shan thought about it and agreed. Tang Juqing's problem was solved, and she didn't need to hide from Tang Yuqi anymore. Tang Yuqi, on the other hand, was a famous overseas detective. He could be an expert in solving cases and help the team. It wouldn't cost much, and it would increase efficiency. Why not? Then I'll be working for you from now onwards. You have to take care of me. Tang Yuqi smiled. Today, I'll treat my beautiful boss to supper and build a relationship. Let's forget about the midnight snack. It's late already. Ling Shan looked at the time on her watch. It's not too late. Not far ahead is the night market stall. Just take it as a thank you for helping me find my second uncle. Tang Yuqi said as he pointed to a place not far away. All right then. Ling Shan nodded after some thought. Since Tang Yuqi wasn't going to ask her about Tang Juqing like before, she didn't need to be on guard against him anymore. Eating with him was a lot more relaxing now. Xinyan, on the other hand, had been able to go to school as usual these past couple of days. There didn't seem to be any problems, but the jade pendant was still bothering Lin Yi. The herb couldn't solve the root of the problem, and it could only be used for a short period of time. As for the jade, Lin Yi couldn't think of a way to deal with it. He even thought of using the art of dragon mastery to replenish the jade's energy, but alas, the jade wasn't a practitioner, and it didn't know any arts. It wasn't a spirit beast either, and it couldn't absorb energy passively. Lin Yi didn't know what to do. Lin Yi had all the energy in his body, but he couldn't transfer it to the jade. The jade situation reminded Lin Yi of the energy stone in Sun Jingyi's hand. He wondered if that stone would be useful to her. Last time, Sun Jingyi had been found by Little 11, and there wasn't much energy left in the stone. Sun Jingyi didn't use it to train, but put it aside for now. Lin Yi went to get the stone and started studying it. Sun Jingyi's stone was brighter than the one Yudake gave him last time, but it was already very dim. This meant that the stone and the jade were similar. The more energy there was, the brighter the stone's color would be. After the energy inside was used up, the color would become dimmer and dimmer until it couldn't be used anymore. Chapter 2776. Lin Yi wanted to use the art of dragon mastery to transfer energy to Wang Xinyan, but Wang Xinyan wasn't a spiritual beast. She didn't have an incantation, so she couldn't guide Lin Yi's universal qi to complete the conversion. Wang Xinyan's body was special, beyond the 5 elements. Lin Yi couldn't even choose an incantation for her because he didn't know Wang Xinyan's element, and Lin Yi didn't know what incantation she should be practicing. After all these failed attempts, Lin Yi gave Sun Jingyi's white energy stone to Wang Xinyan, telling her to put it in her chest pocket to test the effect. A week later, the energy stone in Wang Xinyan's chest changed slightly. It was a very subtle change, but it didn't escape Lin Yi's eyes. Lin Yi had carefully memorized the stone's condition, and on the second day, the light of the stone dimmed a little. It was very faint, but it meant that Wang Xinyan's jade could be replaced with an energy stone. Lin Yi let out a breath of relief after understanding this. He was pleasantly surprised. The jade thing that had been bothering Lin Yi for a long time had been solved. The jade wasn't the only solution, and energy stones could be used as an alternative. According to Udake, there should be a lot of such energy stones on his map, but Udake had gone there once and hadn't found them. Lin Yi planned to go to the Hakunamata Desert when he had time to look for energy stones. Lin Yi believed that with Skybolt Pig's help, it wouldn't be too difficult to find the stones. Wang Xinyan's matter was settled, and Lin Yi could finally relax. At this time, the day of the Sky Elixir School's test was just around the corner. Lin Yi left the net at home, and only wore the mid-level golden cicada underwear. Of course, Lin Yi wanted to leave the bright golden cicada underwear for Meng Yao and the others to protect themselves, but the prophet said that it might be useful for protection, so Lin Yi put it on. After telling Wu Qintian, Pai Zhishan, Han Xiaopa, and Zhuang Niaoqiang that they would take turns to protect the girls, Lin Yi then drove to the hidden house Zhao. He was going to pick up Zhao Qikuan and head to the Sky Elixir School's test. Zhao Qibing had been quiet for a while now, staying in the hidden house Zhao. He didn't even dare to go out. What happened to Yuning last time scared him. Although the hidden house Yu didn't do anything to him after that, he was afraid that the hidden house Yu would do something behind his back. On the surface, Zhao Qibing was the young master of the hidden house Zhao, and the hidden house Yu might not have a conflict with the hidden house Zhao because of this, but in reality, the relationship between the hidden house Yu and the hidden house Zhao had hit rock bottom. After this incident, the two houses never contacted each other again. In the end, this matter was because of the hidden house Yu Shan, and the hidden house Yu couldn't find fault with the hidden house Zhao, so they could only let it go. There wasn't a single disciple in the hidden Zhao house who didn't recognize Lin Yi. During the hidden house summit, Lin Yi had made a name for himself with one battle, so when Lin Yi's car stopped at the entrance of the hidden Zhao house's manor, the patrolling disciples of the hidden Zhao house acted as if they were facing a great enemy. They hurriedly told Elder Mian about Lin Yi's arrival, and through Elder Mian, they reported it to Elder Zhao. What? Lin Yi is here. Elder Zhao froze. Lin Yi came without any warning, and he didn't even contact him beforehand. He came so suddenly, and it made Elder Zhao's heart skip a beat. What is he doing here? I'm not sure, the patrolling disciples didn't ask and just came to report, Elder Mian said carefully. It can't be that he's here because of the hidden house Yu's Yuning, right? Elder Zhao was very worried. He had heard that Lin Yi could instantly kill Sky-class masters, and right now, he was filled with fear for Lin Yi. If Lin Yi wanted to kill him, it would only take one move. Old Master, could that Lin Yi be here to pick up Zhao Qikuan? They're going to the Sky Elixir sex test together. Uncle Zhu interrupted. Naturally, Elder Zhu's second knew why Lin Yi was here. He was the one who contacted Lin Yi, telling Lin Yi that House Zhao was preparing to send Zhao Qikuan to the Sky Elixir sect for the test, so Lin Yi was definitely here to look for him. As for trouble, Lin Yi would definitely need Uncle Zhu as his spy, and since Lin Yi didn't say anything, then it definitely wasn't him. So, Uncle Zhu didn't mind being a prophet once in a while to increase his influence in the hidden house Zhao. Lil Zhu, you're right, Lin Yi might really be here for Zhao Qikuan. After hearing Uncle Zhu's words, Elder Zhao suddenly understood. He had been blinded by the situation, but now that he thought about it, Lin Yi would have come a long time ago if he wanted to. Why wait until now? Lin Yi could instantly kill Sky-class masters, and it wasn't something that could be done in the past few days. With that thought, Elder Zhao quickly said, Elder Mian, Lil Zhu, you two go receive Lin Yi at the door, Susu has invited him in for a chat. Yes. Head of the house. Elder Mian and Uncle Zhu replied. In the living room of the hidden house Zhao, Lin Yi was led by Elder Mian and Uncle Zhu to Elder Zhao. Lin Yi didn't even bother to be polite and just sat on the sofa, making Elder Zhao, who was about to shake his hand, feel very awkward. Well. Young hero Lin, may I know what brings you here today? Elder Zhao was an experienced man, after all. He knew when to submit and when to not. Although Lin Yi didn't give him any face, he didn't dare get angry. He even felt that Lin Yi was purposely trying to provoke him. As long as he got angry, Lin Yi would have an excuse to make a move, and it would become his provocation, and the other hidden houses wouldn't be able to say anything. So the more it was like this, the calmer Elder Zhao felt. Where's Zhao Qikuan? I'm taking him to the Sky Elixir test, call him out. Lin Yi waved his hand and said faintly, ignoring Elder Zhao's politeness. Ugh, okay. Elder Zhao paused, thinking that Lin Yi really was here for Zhao Qikuan. But that made things easier, as long as he wasn't here for trouble. Elder Zhao was most afraid that Lin Yi would come to cause trouble, and Lin Yi was obviously here for Zhao Qikuan. He said to Uncle Zhu, Lil Zhu, go call Qikuan here, the Sky Elixir test has Master Lin's protection, it shouldn't be a problem. Yes, head of the house. Uncle Zhu quickly replied. He didn't even look at Lin Yi when he came, and normal people wouldn't be able to tell that he had anything to do with Lin Yi. Chapter 2777. Ugh. This. Guanyin is still young and strong, I haven't thought about choosing another head yet. Old Zhao was shocked and said quickly. Oh, then why did I hear that Zhao Qibing is the young head of your hidden house? Lin Yi frowned and asked faintly. This. Maybe this kid just came back to the hidden house and his confidence is inflated. Old Zhao said carefully. Is that so? Lin Yi asked back, where's Zhao Qibing? Why isn't he out? Ugh, that Zhao Qibing went to visit his relatives, he's not home, Old Zhao said quickly. I see, forget it then. I wanted to help him break his leg, but since he's not here, forget it, Lin Yi said regretfully. This. Old Zhao paused, but he knew that Lin Yi was probably bullshitting. He had no intention of helping Zhao Qibing break his leg at all. He was just making him feel bad, but Old Zhao still said, it's fine, since it's not possible this time, I'll let Zhao Qibing come to you personally to break his leg, there's no rush. This is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. If I don't break it this time, I might not want to break it next time. We'll see, Lin Yi said. Old Zhao was speechless, thinking that Lin Yi was messing with him, but he didn't dare to argue, then he can only blame it on Qibing's bad luck. Let him try his luck, maybe you'll be in a good mood and break his leg again. Old Zhao didn't hide the fact that Qibing had a broken leg. From his point of view, Lin Yi was related to Yu Ning from House Yu, so it was obvious that he knew about Qibing's thousand-legged training. This kind of broken leg was something that everyone had a tacit understanding about. Lin Yi smiled, since Zhao Qibing is hiding, forget it then. Old Zhao was very embarrassed, but when he turned around, he saw Uncle Zhu bringing Zhao Qikuan in. He was overjoyed, Chikuin, young Master Lin purposely came to our hidden house to bring you to the Sky Elixir sex test. You have to listen to him along the way. Alright. Chikuin looked at old Zhao, his reply a little coldly. He'd been treated coldly by the hidden Zhaos for a long time, and since that was the case, there was no need for him to feign civility with them. He was just a little curious as to why his grandpa was so respectful to Lin Yi, even calling him Master Lin. Before the Hidden House Summit, Lin Yi seemed to have a huge grill with the Hidden House. And they were trying to kill Lin Yi, but now, it seemed like the situation had changed. Lin Yi dared to come to the Hidden House alone, and his grandfather's attitude was completely different from before. What did this mean? Boss, thank you for thinking of me, Zhao Chikuin was very touched that Lin Yi came to the Sky Elixir sect alone. He felt that Lin Yi was even more loyal than the people of House Zhao. We came back together from the Ice Palace test, so naturally, we have to come back together for the Sky Elixir test. Lin Yi stood up and patted Zhao Chikuin's shoulder. Let's go, it seems like old Zhao is quite afraid of me here. I won't stay here to scare people anymore. Ugh. Old Zhao laughed dryly. Of course not, young Master Lin, I can't wait to welcome you. Why would I be afraid? Oh, then aren't you afraid that I'll kill you? Lin Yi's face turned solemn as he asked faintly. Chikuin was startled as well. He didn't think that Lin Yi would ask something like this. Wasn't he trying to turn on his grandpa? But this was the hidden house. If they fought, would he and Lin Yi be a match for them? But old Zhao's answer made Zhao Chikuin speechless. Old Zhao's face froze, stunned as he looked at Lin Yi. Young Master Lin, you must be joking. We have no grudges, why would you want to kill me? No grudges. Lin Yi smiled and ignored him, pulling Chikuin with him as they walked out of the Zhao's guest room. Old Zhao looked at Lin Yi and Zhao Chikuin's backs, finally letting out a sigh of relief. He sat on the sofa, clutching his heart. Head, are you alright? Elder Mian was sweating as well. I'm fine. Who would have thought that Lin Yi would be this strong now? The pressure he gave me just now was too much. We don't know if Zhao Chikuin's going with him will be a blessing or a curse. Old Zhao said worriedly. Well. Head, maybe we should change our strategy. To Chikuin. Elder Mian wasn't elder by, he didn't have any favoritism for Zhao Qibing, nor did he have any dislike for Zhao Chikuin. As far as he was concerned, whoever was more useful to the hidden house would be the one to take over. It was a very normal thing. But this isn't fair to elite soldier. Old Zhao was a bit troubled. He didn't feel this much pressure when facing Lin Yi in the past, but after seeing him today, old Zhao really couldn't take it. But it's obvious that Lin Yi doesn't like Zhao Qibing, and is closer to Zhao Chikuin. Elder Mian said carefully. Man, I'll think about it. Old Zhao waved his hand helplessly. Lin Yi and Zhao Chikuin left the hidden house together, and Zhao Chikuin was very curious about what had happened today. He got in Lin Yi's car and couldn't help but ask, Boss, why does my grandpa look like he's scared of you? I can insta-kill him, of course he'd be scared. Lin Yi smiled. You probably don't have any other information channels these days, so you don't know what's going on outside. Yeah, boss, you can insta-kill my grandpa. My grandpa is a Sky Class early phase, could it be that your strength now? Zhao Chikuin's eyes went wide, shocked. You're a Sky Class too. No, I'm just Earth Class late phase. Lin Yi shook his head, but I have the strength to insta-kill Sky Class, pretty much anyone below Sky Class mid-phase. Fuck, boss, you're that strong. Doesn't that mean you're the strongest under Sky Class? Zhao Chikuin was surprised. No wonder my grandpa was so scared, no wonder they didn't make things difficult for me recently, so that's the reason. Chapter 2778. I'm not the first, let's get going. Lin Yi started the car and followed the directions on the invitation. Similar to the training in the Ice Palace, Lin Yi drove through a couple of cities. There were very few people around. At most, he could see a few villages, and as he went further, he couldn't even see a village anymore. But the weather here wasn't too bad, unlike the Ice Palace where it was snowing and hard to drive. The roads here were all dirt roads, but because of the dry weather, it didn't affect the speed at all. After another afternoon, Lin Yi's car finally arrived at the location of the invitation, the Sky Elixir Inn. Yes, at the foot of this desolate mountain, a luxurious inn suddenly appeared. This was the registration place for the trial takers of the Heavenly Elixir School, which was specially prepared for trial takers. The difference between this place and the Ice Palace was that there were no normal people here, and the inn was isolated. Perhaps it was because of the geographical location of the Sky Elixir sect that there weren't any villages here, or perhaps it was because the Sky Elixir sect didn't like having normal people around. Lin Yi parked the car in the parking lot and got out with Chikuin. There were a couple of cars parked here as well. They didn't know if they belonged to the other participants or the Sky Elixir sect itself. You too, this isn't a normal inn. If you don't have an invitation, please go back. As soon as the two of them entered the lobby of the inn, a man in plain clothes stopped them and spoke politely. We're here for the test. Lin Yi said faintly. How can freelancers have an invitation? Oh. I see. The man didn't get angry, only nodding to Lin Yi. If that's the case, please show us your strength, and I'll help you register. Lin Yi and Chikuin channeled their arts and showed their strength. Lin Yi was Earth Class Late Phase, and Chikuin was only Mystic Mid-Phase Peak. But the rules were simple this time, as long as one was Mystic and above, they could participate. There was no limit, and so the man nodded in satisfaction. Since you two are practitioners, there's no need to check the invitation. Please show me your IDs, and I'll get you a room card. Lin Yi and Chikuin handed their IDs over. Lin Yi saw Chikuin channeling his arts, and he suddenly remembered Chikuin's strength. He was only a Mystic Mid-Phase Peak, and that was way too weak. He was also one of the few who didn't get anything out of it. Even when he didn't get anything out of it, he was still so loyal to Lin Yi, helping Lin Yi with information. It was truly rare. But when Lin Yi first met him, he was the same as him, a Mystic Mid-Phase Peak. He couldn't help Chikuin increase his strength, and after he was locked up, Lin Yi didn't have the chance to help him even after he became an Earth class. Lin Yi didn't think too much about it. It was only now that Lin Yi felt the need to help Chikuin. After registering their IDs, Lin Yi and Chikuin took the room card and were about to go upstairs when they heard footsteps and voices. It seemed like the other practitioners had arrived before them. Did you hear? The Everyday sect sent someone, and on the way, the disciples of the Holy Fist Palace got into a fight with him, but they didn't get anything out of it. I heard that two people came, and one of them went back before the test. One of them said. "Aw. No way. Is this for real? That's strong. It really is the first demon sect." The other person said in shock, "Isn't that Zhang Naipeo? But I heard that he wasn't that strong. Back then, during the Ice Palace's trial, he was beaten into a cripple." "Shoo, walls have ears, don't let Zhang Naipeo hear about it." The first person said, panicking, "Let's not talk about whether the Ice Palace test is real or not. Even if it is, we losers don't understand the matters of the strong." "Damn, you're a Sky Class early phase." The other person paused, not expecting his friend to be so cowardly. "That Zhang Naipeo, I heard that he's only an Earth Class Late Phase Peak. There's still a huge gap between you and him." "That's true, but Zhang Naipeo's arts are really weird, and so are his techniques." He's known as the #1 under Sky Class Mid-Phase, and I heard that he can even meet Sky Class Mid-Phase Masters without a problem. I'm only Sky Class Early Phase. The person smiled nonchalantly, not thinking that this was anything to be ashamed of. Alright, he's strong, but I don't know if the Feng Nidian from the ancient House Feng, who was said to be able to compete with Zhang Naipeo in the Ice Palace test, will these two fight again? The other person said expectantly, right, bro, isn't your surname Feng too? Do you know the ancient House Feng? Let's not talk about this. The first person shook his head and was about to say something when he suddenly said, someone's here. This was a good reason for him to end the conversation. In actuality, Lin Yi heard their conversation. The person who came downstairs was a Sky Class Early Phase, but it was obvious that he didn't have much experience and didn't know how to defend himself. It'd be too late if Zhang Naipeo heard him. But Lin Yi, naturally, wasn't interested in gossiping with Naipeo. He was just curious, what kind of weird martial arts did this Naipeo learn to become the #1 below Sky Class Mid-Phase? Didn't that mean he was the same as him? Lin Yi couldn't help but shake his head. It seemed like this Zhang Naipeo wasn't going to just go away. Pinliang hadn't left for long, and Zhang Naipeo was already here. Chikuan's face changed as he looked at Lin Yi worriedly. He didn't have any conflict with Naipeo, and he was the one who betrayed Feng Nidian. He wasn't worried about Naipeo's revenge, but Lin Yi had crippled Naipeo last time. Would he just let it go? Chapter 2779. But since his father said so, he couldn't refute it anymore. He could only say, I'm just angry that third brother didn't tell me what he was doing and made decisions in private. It's fine to participate in the trial this time, but what if he deliberately sent San to his death? Impossible. Am I that kind of person? How could I do such an immoral thing? Feng Tianhu snorted, no matter what, I'm still a member of the Feng family, I can't kill each other. It's hard to say, right? Feng Tianlin sneered and said indifferently, you know what you've done. Whatever you say, I'm going to see against the heavens. Feng Tianhu said as he stood up and left. Feng Tianlin was so angry that he pointed at his back and couldn't say anything for a long time. He was also deeply helpless. The family was scheming against each other, and they couldn't relax for even a moment. Otherwise, they would be consigned to eternal damnation. This time, Feng Shisan's matter was a wake-up call, reminding him to be more careful of his younger brother in the future. Father, you see. Feng Tianlin looked at grandfather Feng helplessly. Tianlin, you have to understand that if there's less competition in a family, then it's not good for the family's development. Grandfather Feng sighed and said, I'm old, I have to think about the future of the Feng family. Shisan is talented in cultivation, not worse than against the heavens, but he's too kind and doesn't have any schemes. He's not suited to be a family head. It would be fine if the Feng family was strong, but the current Feng family isn't particularly strong in the ancient era. I haven't reached the peak late stage yet, and our Feng family, including Shisan who just broke through, only has 5 heaven rank experts. It seems that 5 heaven rank experts are very strong, but we don't have a foundation. If an ancient sect really wants to clash with us, then we really won't be able to resist. Feng Tianlin was silent as well. Indeed, the reason why he was able to rise to the top was because of a marriage alliance. He had relied on nepotism to rise to the top, and his means were obviously not strong. Otherwise, he would have been able to suppress Feng Tianhu for so many years. And he also knew that if the Feng family had a strong backing, then it wouldn't be a problem. Just like his relationship with his wife, but these years, his relationship with his wife had gradually declined, and it wasn't as glorious as it used to be. Therefore, the Fengs began to decline rapidly. But, if Against the Heavens recovers, then the poem. Feng Tianlin asked hesitantly. In fact, I acquiesced in this trial. Otherwise, do you really think that Sky Tiger could deceive everyone? In this Feng family, I still have the final say. Old Master Feng laughed and said, sure, and went to participate in the trial to see if he can make some powerful friends. The second is to let him see the world. Otherwise, with his personality, he will be at a disadvantage. I see. Feng Tianlin didn't expect his father to allow this. He was surprised, but he was still worried. But the Heavenly Elixir sex trial. Most of the people who went in the past never came back. I'm afraid that the poem. He still has to go out and gain experience. If he can't even get through such a small storm, then he's not qualified to be the family head. Old Master Feng waved his hand and said, all right. I've made up my mind. There's no need to say anything more. Yes. Father. Feng Tianlin nodded. Since his father said so, he naturally wouldn't say anything else. He could only pray for Feng Shi and to come back safe and sound. Feng Tianhu didn't stop. As soon as he returned to his room, a noble lady, Feng Tianlin's wife, barged into his room and scolded, Feng Tianhu, you bastard. Didn't we work together to deal with Su Shihan? Why did you do this to my son behind my back? Sister-in-law, you're wrong. Shihan is a Sky class master now. His strength is the same as mine. He's the future pillar of our Feng family. If I don't go now, when will I? If he doesn't go through the trial, how can he be the family head? Feng Tianhu quickly shook his head and said, think about it. If something happens to Shihan, what good will it do to me? I'm looking forward to him coming back victorious and getting a great recovery pill for Against the Heavens. If something happens to him, then not only will there be no chance of getting the pill, but our Feng family will also have no descendants. Even if I'm stupid, I wouldn't do such a stupid thing. If Shihan comes back safe and sound, then wouldn't Against the Heavens be healed? Would he continue fighting with Shihan for the position? The lady humphed coldly. I say, sister-in-law, with you here, even if Shihan comes back, he'll still be the heir of the young master. What advantage does Against have? Even if he recovers, I won't let him fight for anything after this. Training in peace is the most important thing. Feng Tianhu said. I'll believe you for now. You wouldn't dare lie to me anyway. The lady nodded, believing Feng Tianhu. In the inn of the Sky Elixir sect, Lin Yi tidied up a little and got ready to eat with Qikuan. Ha! What's this? Qikuan looked at the pig-like animal that Lin Yi took out from his backpack. He paused, and then remembered that this was the Skybolt pig that Lin Yi brought to the Ice Palace last time, wasn't it? He said happily, little guy, we meet again. But the pig didn't pay any attention to Qikuan. He whimpered and jumped into Lin Yi's arms, evidently uncomfortable in the backpack. We can bring spirit beasts in this test, right? Lin Yi asked. Yes, the invitation didn't say that, so it should be fine. Qikuan said awkwardly, this little guy is pretty cute, but it doesn't look like a spirit beast with any attack skills. We can use it for treasure hunting. Lin Yi didn't hide it. Back in the Ice Palace, after Lin Yi took Qikuan as his follower, he didn't use Skybolt Pig for treasure hunting anymore. He always used the excuse of going to the bathroom as an excuse, so Qikuan didn't know about the pig's abilities. At that time, Lin Yi didn't trust Qikuan, so he didn't say much. But now, there was no question of Qikuan's loyalty. He was locked up for this long just because he gave him information. It was enough to show how reliable he was. Treasure hunting. Qikuan paused, suddenly thinking of something. Could it be that back in the Ice Palace, Boss found so many treasures because of this pig? That's right. Lin Yi nodded. Let's go eat. Chapter 2780. Lin Yi carried the pig and went downstairs with Chikuin. The pig didn't need to eat these things, but it was used to eating normal food at home. It hadn't eaten for a few days, so naturally it was hungry. Lin Yi saw Feng Shipian and the other practitioner in the restaurant. Feng Shipian saw Lin Yi and Chikuin, evidently very happy. He waved at them, "Young warriors, come eat with us. It's my treat." Lin Yi smiled bitterly. He didn't think that these two hadn't eaten yet, so he purposely stayed in the room upstairs for a while. Now that they were inviting him, Lin Yi couldn't really reject them. After all, there were only two people in the restaurant. "All right, we'll take it then," Lin Yi said as he brought Chikuin to the empty seat in front of Feng Shipian and the practitioner. "Feng Shipian, let's reintroduce ourselves." Feng Shipian reached out his hand and said politely to Lin Yi. "Lin Yi, this is my follower, Zhao Chikuin." Lin Yi shook hands with Feng Shipian, but he kept an eye on his reaction. What disappointed Lin Yi was that there was no expression on Feng Shipian's face, as if he'd never heard of the name Lin Yi before. In truth, Feng Shipian really hadn't heard of this name. He didn't even know the name Lin Yi. After all, the Ice Palace test was a secret, and the outside world only knew that Feng Nitian and Zhang Naipeo were crippled. As for who did it, no one knew. After all, the Ice Palace still had some power, and the hidden houses didn't dare say anything. As for the two crippled people, it was easy to find out. There were only two people from the ancient level who participated in the test, and they were both crippled when they came back. There was no way to hide it. "I'm Gu Xian, a freelancer, working for Feng Bro." The freelancer introduced himself as well. "I'm an Earth class late phase peak." I'm just a late stage Earth class, a lone cultivator." Lin Yi smiled faintly. "This little brother of mine comes from the hidden house Xiao, but he's a bit weak as well. He's only mystic mid-phase peak." Lin Yi's words shocked Feng Shipian and Gu Xian. Lin Yi was also a rogue cultivator? Then why did he take in a lackey from a hidden house? You should know. Although the hidden plane was not as good as the ancient plane, but compared to a rogue cultivator, it was still an existence that they could only look up to. As a rogue cultivator, Gu Xian knew that if he went to a hidden house, he would at most be a guard or a disciple. Not to mention accepting other people's children as their underlings, even becoming their followers also depended on luck. It would be fine if Lin Yi was a sky-class master, but he was only an Earth-class late phase, and he already had a mystic middle phase peak. This was a little unbelievable. "Hero Lin, nice to meet you." Feng Shipian didn't look down on Lin Yi. Quite the contrary, he felt that these lone cultivators were the easiest to get along with. There was no need to worry about the conflicts between the ancient houses and sections. As long as they got along, they could become good friends. "I come from the ancient house Feng." At this time, Feng Shipian revealed his background for the first time. Even Gu Xian didn't know about it before. This was also after Lin Yi introduced Zhao Chikuin's background. "Ah." Gu Xian paused, shocked. "Feng Bro, you really are from the ancient house Feng." "That Feng Nitian. That's my cousin," Feng Shipian said. "Too bad, he was so young and became a vegetable. Even now, he hasn't woken up. Although he can't blame others for his lack of skills, this is still a huge blow to our house Feng. I'm here this time to ask for a great recovery pill for him." Lin Yi was shocked. He didn't think that his guess would come true. Feng Shipian really was from the ancient house Feng, and he was Feng Nitian's cousin. He had to be careful. No way. I heard that Feng Nidian is very arrogant and wants to fight for the position of the young head. How can you ask for medicine for him? Isn't that threatening your position? Gu Xian was obviously a well-informed person. Feng bro, I see that you're an honest person. Don't let a tiger grow in your boss. If you cure him, he'll come back to threaten you. Feng bro, don't blame me for talking too much. I'm just thinking for you. Gu Xian, I know you're thinking for me. It's fine. Feng Shipian shook his head and said nonchalantly, my mother often tells me to be on guard against Nidian, but I always feel that since Nidian is my cousin, I can't just sit back and do nothing, right? Oh. Then do you hate people who hurt overpowered? Chikuan probed. Hate. Feng Shipian was taken aback, but he shook his head. In the trial, his skills were not as good as others, so he lost. I know his nature-defying personality. If he didn't want to kill others, they wouldn't have been so ruthless. Actually, I understand what you're saying. I'm not an idiot, how could I not know this? But I think that he's still my brother. Do you know why I'm here for the test? Chikuan smiled and asked. Oh. Why? Feng Shipian was curious as well. Normally, the hidden houses wouldn't send people to the Sky Elixir test. After all, the disciples of the hidden houses weren't very strong. Even the elites of the houses were mostly mystic, and most of them didn't come back. As time went by, the hidden houses stopped sending people. The ancient sects and ancient houses, on the other hand, had more disciples of this level. They wanted to contribute to the sect or the house, so most of the participants were from the ancient level. Because I have a cousin who wants to get rid of me. He told my grandpa to send me here to die. Chikuan sighed. Luckily, boss is protecting me. Otherwise, I wouldn't be able to come back. Feng Shipian was silent. In fact, when his third uncle asked him to participate in the trial, he already knew what was going on. His third uncle wanted him to either return safely and obtain the Great Cyclic Pill, or die here. Others might not know, but he was very clear that his third uncle had an illegitimate child outside. When he died, he wouldn't be able to recover from his heaven-defying state. His grandfather had no choice but to let that illegitimate child return to the Feng family. Although Feng Shipian knew about this, his character couldn't be changed. But I can't do something like that. Feng Shipian sighed. I won't hide it from you. I was the one who crippled Nidian. Lin Yi said suddenly. Chapter 2781. Naipeo, on the other hand, had confidence in coming here. The Five Element sect didn't just give Lin Yi a copy of the Sky Elixir sect's map, they also asked for a copy from the Sky Elixir sect for the Everyday and Everyday sect. They didn't want anything to happen to Naipeo during the test. This trial was different from the previous ones. In the previous trials, the purpose of the Heavenly Elixir sect was only to obtain the spiritual herbs and the high deposit that the trial takers had to pay. This time, however, it was all for a plan. Therefore, the Heavenly Elixir sect loosened the conditions of the trial, changing the previous conditions of the Mystic class and Earth class to the Mystic class and above. Others might not know, but as one of the initiators of the Heavenly Class Island plan, how could they not know the situation? If Naipeo hadn't gotten the map, Pinliang wouldn't have let him take the risk. He'd rather not have the pill, and he'd rather not have to teach Lin Yi a lesson. Of course, Pinliang naturally hoped that Lin Yi would die in the test, but he didn't know why, but he had this feeling that Lin Yi wouldn't die in the test. After becoming the Mad Dragon Master, Pinliang's senses were much stronger than before. He didn't know if this feeling was real or not. Not only did he think that Lin Yi would be fine, but he also thought that Zhang Naipeo would be the one in trouble in the end. But he just couldn't understand it. With Naipeo's current strength, he shouldn't be threatened by Lin Yi at all, especially with 2 Sky-class mid-phase protecting him. That was even more of a problem. However, Pinliang still felt like he was missing something, but since the 2 souls had just merged, he couldn't remember what it was. He didn't know what it was. Naipeo saw Lin Yi as well, and his face changed. This was what it meant when enemies met. He never would have thought that he'd meet Lin Yi right after he arrived. Enemies were bound to meet on a narrow road. Lin Yi, I didn't think you'd come. Looks like Liang Bro was right, you're asking for a beating. I didn't go to Donghai to find you. But you came to me on your own. Naipeo smiled coldly as he strode towards Lin Yi, the 2 followers behind him following on his left and right. Can we fight each other before the test starts? Lin Yi didn't know the rules, so he turned to Chikuin. As for Naipeo's words, Lin Yi completely ignored them. Sure. As long as the trial hasn't really started, you can make your move. Chikuin explained. But in Sky Elixir territory, you can't kill them. We can't kill them. That's the bottom line. Of course, not including suicide. Naipeo added faintly. Suicide. Lin Yi looked at Naipeo, you're saying that. You want to commit suicide. Heh, we don't know who's going to commit suicide yet. Lin Yi, do you really want to beat me up right now? Naipeo asked. So what if I am? Lin Yi asked. Then don't say I didn't give you a chance. I'll just stand here and let you hit me. I'll give you a chance to vent your anger, but if you don't do it, don't say I look down on you. Naipeo said. Lin Yi looked at Naipeo, confused. He didn't know what was wrong with this guy, asking him to hit him. You're not going to fight back. Of course I won't fight back if you cripple me, but if you don't do it, don't say I'm not going to be nice. Naipeo said. Lin Yi listened to Naipeo's words, his heart filled with questions. Still, he quickly channeled the 9th form of the Fiery Fist, standing up abruptly. Fiery 8 trigrams palm, 9th form. Don't, Master Lin. Gu Xian seemed to have remembered something. She tried to stop him, but it was too late. But Lin Yi's Fiery 8 trigrams palm didn't land on Naipeo's body. Instead, he targeted one of Naipeo's Sky-class followers. Bang! A loud sound rang out, and the left Sky-class follower flew out, landing heavily on the ground far away from the restaurant. Who knew what material the restaurant was made of, but the ground wasn't damaged at all. Perhaps the Heavenly Elixir sect had considered the possibility of conflict between the cultivators here, so they used some special materials. Ah! The follower screamed as his chest became a mess of flesh and blood, caving in. He only screamed once before his eyes rolled back and he fainted. Lin Yi didn't use his full strength, saving some of his strength for escaping. 1. He was afraid that Naipeo would make a move, and 2. He didn't want to break the rules by killing the follower. But, even if Lin Yi held back and didn't kill the follower was now a cripple, and even a great recovery pill wouldn't be able to save him. Lin Yi's attacks now weren't the same as when he was Mystic. Nidian could still be saved with a great recovery pill, but this follower wasn't. You! Why did you hit him? Naipeo was shocked and furious. He was just standing there, letting Lin Yi hit him. He didn't think that Lin Yi would go for the follower behind him. The follower didn't even know what was going on, and he was already a cripple. This was a Sky-class mid-phase. Even the Everyday sect didn't have that many. But, what shocked Naipeo even more was that Lin Yi could actually injure a Sky-class mid-phase, and with just one move. Naipeo's face was dark and uncertain. He wanted to make a move here, but he was worried about Lin Yi's strength, especially since there were 4 people at the same table as Lin Yi. Other than Zhao Qikuan, he didn't know the strength of the other 2, and he didn't dare make a move. Birds of a feather flock together. If Lin Yi could take down a sky-class mid-phase in one move, then who could guarantee that the people around Lin Yi wouldn't be able to do the same? Nightpeo didn't think that he would be defeated so soon after coming to the Sky Elixir sect. And the person who gave him this setback was Lin Yi. This was so similar to the time in the Ice Palace trial. At that time, he was the one who gave Lin Yi a show of strength, turning Lin Yi into a cripple, and now Lin Yi was the one who gave him a show of strength, crippling one of his Sky-class mid-phase followers. Chapter 2782. Although Lin Yi was suspected of a sneak attack, whether it was a sneak attack or not, it also showed that Lin Yi's strength was there. Gu Xian believed that if it was him, he would not be able to do it. Moreover, he just clearly felt that the skill that Lin Yi used was actually the 15th style of Heaven class. This skill could only be used by masters in the middle stage of Heaven class, but Lin Yi was obviously only a master in the middle stage of Earth class. Lin Yi, we'll see you in the trial. Zhang Naipeo finally held back and did not fight with Lin Yi on the spot. First, he was afraid that he would kill Lin Yi directly and affect the trial plan. Second, if he did not use his ultimate skill, he was afraid that he would not be a match for Lin Yi. If Lin Yi took the initiative to attack him, it would be okay, but if he continued to attack his other follower on the right, it would be a bit of a mess, and Zhang Naipeo would be a commander without an army. Oh. Lin Yi responded indifferently. Humph. Zhang Naipeo snorted coldly and said to his other follower, Mo Ba, carry Mo Jiu, let's go. Yes, gunslinger. Mo Ba's follower was scared as well. Lin Yi had crippled Mo Jiu with one move, and it was obvious that he was still holding back. If Lin Yi were to attack again, he wouldn't be able to handle it. After listening to Zhang Naipeo's words, Mo Ba was relieved. He carried Mo Jiu on his back and quickly left the restaurant with Zhang Naipeo. It could be said that he came in a hurry and left in a hurry. Gu Xian, just now you stopped me, because... Lin Yi turned to look at Gu Xian and asked. Ah. Gu Xian came back to his senses. The scene just now was too shocking for him. He did not expect that Zhang Naipeo, who was so powerful in the legends, who had killed a disciple of the Holy Fist Palace on the trial road, would be thwarted. And the one who defeated him was a rogue cultivator that he had just met, a rogue cultivator that he did not pay much attention to. Before, when Lin Yi said that he had injured Nitian, Gu Xian was only impressed. After all, he hadn't seen it with his own eyes, and it had been a long time since he'd seen it. He hadn't seen it with his own eyes, and it had been a long time, so he didn't really care about it. But now, Gu Xian finally knew. There was a reason why Lin Yi could defeat Nitian. Before, I heard that the disciple of the Holy Fist Palace also hit Zhang Naipeo and became disabled. I suddenly thought of it. Naipeo just stood there and let you hit him, would that be a problem? Gu Xian explained. I also thought of this, so I didn't hit him. Instead, I hit one of his followers. Lin Yi nodded. He wanted to get rid of as many as he could. Naipeo had brought 2 followers with him this time, and Lin Yi was a bit worried. But now that one was gone, things would be easier. As long as they were in the trial. If he formed an alliance with Feng Shipian, he should be able to fight against Naipeo and Feng Shipian. He would deal with Naipeo, and Feng Shipian would balance Mo Ba. Unless Mo Ba was similar to Lin Yi, Feng Shipian, a master at the early stage of Heaven stage, could still deal with him for a while. Yes, although I don't know what is going on. But thinking about it, Zhang Naipeo didn't do anything before. The disciple of the Holy Fist Palace was disabled. It is very strange, and he took the initiative to let you hit him. I feel that this is very strange. There must be something wrong. Gu Xian said, that's why I stopped you from doing it. Lin Yi nodded and said, I also have this worry. Zhang Naipeo is a disciple of the demon sect, and we can't judge him by common sense. It seems that we have to investigate carefully. Don't worry, I will try my best to find out, but what I can find out is actually only on the surface. I can't do anything about things that are too confidential. Gu Xian shrugged and said helplessly. Not long after Zhang Naipeo left, another 3 cultivators came. Obviously, they were also here to participate in the trial. But one of them was alone, and his face was pale, as if he was very unlucky. The other 2 were on guard against him, and it seemed that they wanted to keep a distance from him. The disciple with a pale face is the disciple of the Holy Fist Palace. One of his companions was disabled by Zhang Naipeo, and because he has a grudge against Zhang Naipeo, the other 2 dare not get too close to him. Gu Xian explained to Lin Yi and others in a low voice. Where are the other 2 people from? Lin Yi asked. I don't know. I have news about the disciple of the Holy Fist Palace, because they fought with Zhang Naipeo. Gu Xian said. Young hero, would you like to come and sit with us? At this time, Feng Shipian stood up and threw an olive branch to the disciple of the Holy Fist Palace. In fact, he was not stupid, but he was honest and straightforward. He could also imagine that Lin Yi and Zhang Naipeo were sworn enemies, and he had sat with Lin Yi before, so it was inevitable that he would be regarded as an enemy by Zhang Naipeo. The enemy of the enemy was a friend. The disciple of the Holy Fist Palace had disabled his companion, so he must have hated Zhang Naipeo to the core. The disciple of the Holy Fist Palace was stunned. He did not expect that someone would take the initiative to recruit him. The disciples of other sects avoided him, for fear that Zhang Naipeo would take revenge on them if they had anything to do with him. He was considering whether he should continue to participate in the trial when someone greeted him. Hello. Are you calling me? The disciple of the Holy Fist Palace pointed to himself and asked with some uncertainty. Of course, I am Feng Shipian, an internal master at the early stage of Heaven stage. I am a disciple of the ancient Feng family. May I know your name, young hero? Feng Shipian asked with a smile. My name is Li Siba, from the Holy Fist Palace. I am a physical master at the middle stage of Heaven stage. Li Siba cupped his fists and said in fear and trepidation. Usually, the disciples of the Holy Fist Palace were very arrogant. Although the other party was a disciple of the ancient Feng family, he was only at the early stage of Heaven stage. Li Siba certainly looked down on him. But the situation was different now. Feng Shipian had taken the initiative to talk to him, which was already giving him a lot of face. Oh, young hero Li, sit down, let me introduce you to the others. Feng Shipian pointed to Lin Yi and said, This is young hero Lin, a master at the late stage of Earth stage. Speaking of Lin Yi's strength, Li Siba's eyes flashed a trace of disappointment. In his opinion, Lin Yi's strength was too low. Among these people, Feng Shipian's strength was the highest, but it was impossible for him to compete with Zhang Naipeo and the others. Young hero Li, don't underestimate Brother Lin. Although Brother Lin is only a master at the late stage of Earth stage, he just destroyed one of Zhang Naipeo's men in the middle stage of Heaven stage. It was just one move, so Brother Lin's strength is the strongest among us. Feng Shipian also saw the disdain in Li Siba's eyes, so he explained and even addressed Lin Yi respectfully as Brother Lin. Ah! Li Siba was stunned and looked at Lin Yi in horror. Chapter 2797. Extremely impressed of course, Li Siba knew the strength of Zhang Naipeo's men. They were real masters at the middle stage of Heaven stage, and Lin Yi could destroy them in one move. What kind of terrifying strength was this? He had suffered under Zhang Naipeo's hands before, so he knew very well how strong they were. Although he was also a middle stage of Heaven stage, he didn't get the upper hand against two of Zhang Naipeo's men. If he didn't run fast enough, he might have been crippled. However, he didn't expect Lin Yi to be able to cripple Zhang Naipeo's men, and he was still eating here without any injuries. It was unbelievable. Li Siba greets young hero Lin. Brother Lin, you really are my idol. Brother Lin, you may already know that our disciples of the Holy Fist Palace suffered a great loss in the hands of Zhang Naipeo. I thought there was no hope for revenge, but I didn't expect Brother Lin to help us. I am so grateful. Li Siba looked at Lin Yi with admiration. Zhang Naipeo and I are enemies, and I crippled him in the Ice Palace last time. It's normal for him to come looking for trouble. It's not like it has anything to do with you. Lin Yi said nonchalantly with a wave of his hand. Damn, Brother Lin, you are so strong. You crippled Zhang Naipeo last time, did you cripple Feng Nidian as well? Li Siba suddenly turned his head and looked at Feng Shipian. He didn't know why Feng Shipian was sitting with Lin Yi. Didn't Lin Yi destroy a member of the Fengs? Brotherly, you don't need to look at me like that. I know my cousin very well. He's arrogant and domineering. He tried to steal the treasures from Brother Lin in the Ice Palace trial, so he got crippled by Brother Lin. He only has himself to blame. Feng Shipian shook his head. This won't affect my relationship with Brother Lin. In actuality, Feng Shipian wasn't an idiot at all. He came here to get medicine for Nidian, but he didn't show any hostility towards the person who injured Nidian. Instead, he showed friendliness. This was enough to show that Feng Shipian was the type of person who looked like a fool. I see. Li Siba nodded. Brother Lin is so strong. Why don't we nominate Brother Lin to be our captain? We'll form a team and join the trial under Brother Lin's lead. I think that's a good idea. Gu Xian was very impressed by Lin Yi as well. Of course I'm fine with it. With Brother Lin leading our team, it'll be like adding wings to a tiger. Feng Shipian smiled. Lin Yi is my boss, I'll definitely be fine. Qikuan said. And so, Lin Yi became the captain out of nowhere. He couldn't do anything about it. By the way, Ci Ba, where are the two disciples who came with you from? They seem to be on guard against you. Lin Yi asked. Since everyone had chosen him to be the captain, he wouldn't reject it, and called Siba Li Siba. Those two are from the Dark Palace, average strength, Earth class mid-phase. Of course, I'm not looking down on Earth classes, a master like Brother Lin is even stronger than us Sky class masters. Siba was worried that Lin Yi wouldn't be happy, so he added, these two were trying to get on our good side on the way here, wanting to join me and my disciple, but then we met Zhang Naipeo, and my disciple was crippled, so the two of them just kept their distance from us. A disciple of the Dark Palace. Lin Yi had heard of the Dark Palace before, back when Lin Yi came back from West Star Mountain. Lin Yi had heard of them before. All of a sudden, Lin Yi felt a headache. Lin Yi remembered the trip to West Star Mountain and felt like his memories were a little fragmented. There were a lot of things missing, but he just couldn't remember them. Brother Lin, what's wrong? Do you have a grudge against the Dark Palace? Li Siba saw the frown on Lin Yi's face, and thought that Lin Yi had a grudge against them. Do you need me to teach them a lesson? Nope, don't do anything stupid. Lin Yi waved his hand. I was just thinking about something else, it's nothing. Alright, Li Siba wanted to show off in front of Lin Yi, but he didn't have the chance to. After a while, more disciples came into the restaurant, some that Gu Xian and the others knew, and some that they didn't. The one that caught Lin Yi's attention was a female disciple from the Ice Palace. Lin Yi thought that Zhao Qijiu or Yu Bing would come, but they didn't. In truth, the Sky Elixir's test was full of danger, and Yu Bing and Qijiu were both people that Lin Yi had asked Xiao Xiao to take care of. Naturally, Xiao Xiao wouldn't let them come to a test like this, not to mention that Xiao Xiao didn't know that Lin Yi was going to participate in the Sky Elixir test. After all, the last time Lin Yi participated in the Sky Elixir test was a coincidence, and Lin Yi didn't have much to do with the Sky Elixir test. At first, Lin Yi thought that he wouldn't meet anyone he knew in the test, but then the door opened, and a cool girl in black walked in carefully. She didn't greet anyone, but found a corner and sat down. Pfft. Lin Yi spat out the drink he was drinking when he saw who it was. Who else could it be but Yang Qiqi? Lin Yi didn't expect Yang Qiqi to participate in the Sky Elixir test as well. What was she doing here? Was she going to trade for some medicine for her friend? Bro Lin, what's wrong? Shipian asked curiously. Nothing, I just saw someone I know. Lin Yi said. Then tell her to come sit with us. Shipian said passionately. It's okay, she's a bit of a loner. We'll see. Lin Yi shook his head. Lin Yi knew Yang Qiqi's personality very well. Lin Yi wouldn't mess with her if there wasn't anything going on, in case she tried to kill him. After dinner, Lin Yi and the others went back to their rooms to rest. There were a lot of practitioners in the restaurant, and Yang Qiqi didn't notice Lin Yi. She left alone after dinner, and it seemed like she didn't have any friends here. Naipeo didn't know if it was because he was defeated by Lin Yi, but he didn't come back down after he went upstairs, and he didn't eat either. Bro Lin, what's that spirit beast of yours? Why does it look like a pet? It shouldn't be of much use in this test, right? Gu Xian was a knowledgeable man, and he found the spirit beast in Lin Yi's hand strange. Chapter 2783. Lin Yi, on the other hand, wouldn't say too much to Gu Xian. After all, the two hadn't known each other for long, and there was no need for Lin Yi to say too much. I see, I understand now. Brother Lin is a freelancer, and this spirit beast is like a contracted spirit beast, unwilling to part with you. Gu Xian speculated. Lin Yi smiled, but didn't explain. He changed the topic and asked Li Siba, right, Siba, just what kind of move did Zhang Naipeo use to cripple your disciple? I heard that your disciple only punched Naipeo once, and Naipeo didn't even do anything, yet your disciple was crippled. Yes. Li Siba nodded. I was there, but I was curious as well. Naipeo was just standing there, taking a punch from my disciple, and Naipeo was coughing up blood. He had to take a Xiaohuan pill on the spot, and I thought that my disciple would be able to win. Who would have thought that my disciple would fall to the ground after the punch, suffering from severe internal injuries? I couldn't even ask him about it. Oh. Lin Yi paused, not expecting things to be this weird. He thought that Gu Xian was just hearing it from someone else, but now that he heard it, Lin Yi realized that things were way beyond his imagination. Zhang Naipeo didn't do anything, and he got injured instead. And your disciple fainted. Is that so? Isn't it weird? Li Siba smiled bitterly. I'm actually wondering what's going on as well. It seems like I'll have to be more careful when I fight Naipeo. Lin Yi thought about Naipeo. After returning to his room, Lin Yi called Meng Yao to ask if anything had happened back home. Lin Yi only calmed down after hearing that everything was fine. However, what Lin Yi didn't know was that Jiang Wen's plot had begun once more, during this period of time. Jiang Wen had been holding back all this time. In fact, he wouldn't be able to do much in Donghai with Lin Yi around. With Lingshan's position here, Lin Yi would be the first to think that it was Jiang Wen's doing if there were any strange cases. With no other choice, Jiang Wen was thinking about committing the crime elsewhere. However, to commit a crime in a different place required opportunities. It wasn't something that could be done just because one wanted to. One had to be prepared. However, what made Jiang Wen excited was that the vice leader of the Fire Wolves gang's northern division called him personally, giving him a huge mission. Yanjing City, in a high-class nightclub, Lu Tianli was eating with a big supplier. This supplier's price was much cheaper than the previous one. After a few days of contact, Tianli realized that the boss of this company didn't like much other than going to nightclubs and partying every night. In order to get a better price, Tianli naturally accompanied him every day. After all, a big supplier of this level could not be handled by an ordinary vice president. Boss Lu. This nightclub is very good. I like it very much, especially the decoration style. It makes me feel relaxed and happy. This supplier was called Boss Lang, and he was quite a straightforward person. He didn't put too much pressure on Tianli, only telling him that he was having fun with him. I'll sign a contract with you. This kind of business interaction was actually the simplest. The other party had hobbies, and you just had to cater to them. Tianli ate and drank with Boss Lang every day, so it didn't cost him much. Boss Lang, do you have any more cigarettes? Give me another pack. I have to say, the cigarettes you brought back from Cuba are really strong. It feels different when I smoke them. Tianli was quite familiar with Boss Lang now, so he didn't mind asking for more. How is it? Didn't I tell you? My cigarettes are different from the ones in your country. I got a friend to make them, so it's completely different. Boss Lang smiled. But I'm out of those cigarettes. I didn't bring much this time, just a few cartons. I gave 2 to Boss Lu, and the rest were all smoked by us. That's all. Tianli was a little regretful, but he had fallen in love with the taste of those special cigarettes these days. He couldn't resist the craving if he didn't smoke them for a day. But there are others. You can try them too. I promise you won't be bad. Boss Lang said as he turned to the person beside him. Little Chui, go get a few cartons of cigarettes from the car, the special ones too. Yes, Boss Lang. Chui nodded and left the room. Your subordinate's name is quite funny. Chui Mianshi, sounds like a hypnotist. Tianli couldn't help but joke after hearing that there were special cigarettes that sounded similar. Ha! Boss Lang laughed and didn't say anything. Not long later, Chui came back with 4 to 5 cartons of cigarettes in his hands. He opened one of them and took out a pack for Tianli, lighting it up for him diligently. Good smoke. Tianli couldn't help but praise after taking a puff. Very refreshing, even better than before. Boss Lang, you're so mean, why didn't you bring out the good stuff earlier? Lil Bro Lu, I thought we weren't close before. We didn't really get along, so I didn't bring it out. Now that we're close, it doesn't matter anymore. Boss Lang smiled. Alright, when can we sign the contract, Mr. Lang? Tianli asked, striking the iron while it was hot. Oh, the contract. Sure. Little Chui, go get the contract, Boss Lu, and I will sign it now. Boss Lang waved his hand at Chui Mianshi. Yes, Boss Lang. Chui replied and went to prepare. Tianli didn't expect the signing process to be this smooth, and his impression of this CEO Lang increased by leaps and bounds. After looking at the contract, he realized that the terms were all very fair, and with a wave of his pen, he signed it. Boss Lang, on the other hand, gave all the remaining cigarettes in the car to Tianli in celebration, and the two's happy business partnership officially began. The second day, more practitioners came to the Sky Elixir Sect's Inn, but Nightpeo and Mo Ba's man were still nowhere to be seen. This made Lin Yi suspicious. Why didn't these people eat? But it was normal for practitioners to not eat for a few days, so it wasn't that strange. In fact, it wasn't that Nightpeo didn't want to come out, but Lin Yi had suddenly injured one of his men, filling him with rage and hatred. His chrysanthemum arts was a technique that leveled up through hatred. Chapter 2784. He had a feeling that he was about to step into Sky class, and so he went back to his room and prepared to go into closed-door training. He spent the entire night under Demon 8's protection, channeling his practitioner's arts. The next morning, Nightpeo finally broke through and stepped into Sky class. Above the inn of the Heavenly Elixir Sect, a large amount of spirit chi of heaven and earth rushed over. The cultivators living in the inn all knew that this was a sign that someone was about to make a breakthrough. But who on earth would be so lucky to make a breakthrough at this time? The others didn't know, but Lin Yi was a bit surprised. Lin Yi remembered that only Nightpeo and his men weren't here. Could it be that Nightpeo had broken through? Did you hear? Someone broke through in the Ice Palace last time. I heard it was Zhang Nightpeo from the Everyday and Everyday sect. What a coincidence. A disciple from Fire Mountain said from a nearby table. I know Nightpeo, he's here already. I saw his name at the sign-in booth, but he's not in the restaurant right now. Could it be that he's still the one breaking through? A disciple from the Dark Palace said, surprised. Then it's probably Nightpeo again. The disciple from Fire Mountain nodded. The disciple from Fire Mountain nodded. The Everyday and Everyday sect, they have a lot of power, and we can't be envious of them. I heard that Zhang Nightpeo is a core disciple, and we're only here for the rewards. It's different, that's true, but I heard that in the Ice Palace last time, other than Nightpeo, there was another person who broke through as well. He's pretty strong as well. He was the one who injured Nightpeo. I wonder if he's here yet. The disciple from the Endless West Sea said. It's best if we don't talk about these things too much. Even though we're all from the ancient era, it'll still be troublesome if the disciples of the Ice Palace hear about it. The disciple from Fiery Mountain had reminded him not to bring up the fight with the Ice Palace. What's there to be afraid of? We, the Ice Palace and the Endless West Sea, are all water practitioners. We're from the same line, they'll at least give us some face. The Endless West Sea disciple said casually. Lin Yi could clearly hear their conversation. In fact, the distance between each table was not far. Few of the practitioners here were of the profound rank. Most of them were of the earth rank or even the heaven rank. It was very easy for them to hear what was being discussed at other tables. Since the Heavenly Elixir sect had changed the level standard of the participants, the cultivators sent by each sect would not be limited to the profound stage, in order to have a better chance of winning. Usually, they would send disciples with relatively higher strength. That way, they would have a higher chance of winning. However, from the looks of it, the news about him did not spread out. The ancient era only knew about this matter. However, they didn't know who he was. It wasn't long before Chi-Chi walked in, but there were no empty tables left. Familiar cultivators sat at each table in twos and threes. After buying breakfast, Chi-Chi wanted to find an empty table to sit down, but when she came to a table, the two cultivators sitting there glared at her angrily. Chi-Chi wanted to get angry, but she didn't dare to. She could only find another seat. After all, the practitioners here were all stronger than Chi-Chi. There was no way Chi-Chi would be a match for them. Chi-Chi found another two tables, but the cultivators there were also very unfriendly towards her, telling her to leave. These disciples of the ancient era were very particular about their cliques. Only disciples from sects they had good relationships with would sit together, and they were quite hostile towards outsiders. At this level, cultivators usually didn't have that much of a need for beauties. No one would look at Chi-Chi differently just because she was a pretty girl. In the eyes of these disciples, there were only cultivation and benefits. As for beauties, they were just floating clouds. Chi-Chi was very troubled. She didn't think that there would be no more seats in the restaurant while she was sleeping. The most annoying thing was that the cultivators here weren't easy to get along with. She was alone, and there wasn't even a place for her to sit. "Excuse me, may I sit here?" Chi-Chi had learned her lesson this time. She asked politely at the next table. "No." The Endless West Sea disciple at the table next to Lin Yi said coldly. Evidently, they were quite wary of cultivators they didn't know. Unless it was someone like Feng Shipian, who liked to make friends, or the two weaker ones from the Dark Palace, the others all had their own circles, and wouldn't accept newcomers easily. Chi-Chi was on the verge of tears at the heartless rejection. She held her plate, not knowing if she should leave or stay. She decided to give it a try, and asked Lin Yi's table. If it didn't work, she'd quickly finish her food in the corner and go back to her room. She was so unlucky. "Excuse me, may I sit here?" Chi-Chi asked listlessly. "Sure, but you'll have energy after dinner. Just don't turn around and try to kill me." Lin Yi smiled as he looked at Chi-Chi. "Ah! You're Lin Yi." Chi-Chi's eyes went wide. She didn't think that she'd meet Lin Yi here. She felt the urge to cry. She didn't think that the one who would take her in would be her enemy, Lin Yi. "I'm Lin Yi, but you don't have to be so surprised, do you?" Lin Yi was speechless as he looked at Chi-Chi. This cool girl was way too shocked. Great, I've finally met someone I know." Chi-Chi was on the verge of tears as she put her plate down. If it weren't for Lin Yi, she would have been crouching in the corner to eat, or bring her breakfast back to her room. "Bro Lin, aren't you going to introduce us?" Feng Shipian loved making friends. He smiled at Lin Yi. "This is my... how do I put it, friend and foe, I guess." She's young Chi-Chi, also a freelancer, a physical practitioner. "Right, what's your level now?" Lin Yi didn't know what Chi-Chi's level was. She was a physical practitioner, but Lin Yi couldn't tell. You're tuning in to the LoveLore Library YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.